This is Best Ball Whenever, and I'm here with John Daigle at not J Daigle on Twitter. John, I've been a fan of John's content for a long time. He has been all around the industry. Most recently was at 4 for 4. Now moved on. He is the newest member of the Establish the Run NFL team. Not only NFL, I should say, newest member of the Establish the Run team. Currently doing a lot of UFL content, which of course I love watching, listening to John and Cody Main and Alex talking about UFL every week has been a great time. Of course, I'm on the Fantasy Point stream, so we're like I think the only two like big shows, live shows in town for UFL content. Really excited to be doing my first meeting John for the first time. We've talked a little bit before, but this is our first time doing a show together. John, really excited to have you on. How are you doing this afternoon?
I wish Jacob Sailors wasn't getting rug pulled every other weekend, but other than that, doing well. It's the off season. It's still the time of year where it's only the sickos like us drafting on Underdog, trying to max out all our teams. So it's a good time to continue building up the best ball content at ETR and slowly start working into redraft, which is more my specialty.
Yeah, how much have you gotten? I know I listened to your Best Ball After Dark stream with Pete Overzet, and I actually like immediately I was like, oh, I need to get this guy onto my podcast, and that we're doing this first before I'd love to have you on my Playing for Keeps podcast, talk about your background a little bit. But I know you said on that show that you're getting more and more into best ball content this year. Have you started doing any best ball content yet, or is that just kind of something you're
Well,
waiting for after the UFL season?
going back to NBC, like I started the best ball tiers and rankings over there. So
Okay.
I've been playing religiously since Jeremy Levine first put out the draft app.
Okay.
And boy, those summers were the best, where you just got into 3-man cash game lobbies and just preset Travis Kelce in the first round, because like that was the edge. And now it's all over the place. But yeah, I go all the way back to draft. Also, like I came up on DFS and online poker, like a lot of us. So all those niche games I came up playing anyhow. But right now, yes, that's what my responsibility was for ETR among everything else. Is they had never done tiers to go along with their rankings. And now all the tiers that have been set have been argued back and forth about which players belong in which tier, but it's been an aggregate process that I took writing all of it for every site too, not just Underdog, but for those who play on FFPC, Drafters, DraftKings, and BB10s, tiers and rankings all over there as well. Not to mention some other, cliche best ball articles like favorite late round stacks, favorite week 17 games to target, just the articles of where the industry's going.
So these are already out. You already have your tiers stuff out.
All over there to establish the run. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I do subscribe to the Establish the Run Best Ball
Mm-hmm.
subscription, so I'll have to go check that out. I used the rankings. I forgot. I meant to go and set the rankings using the ETR rankings today, but I forgot to do that. So we're just going to probably draft off of ADP. But I'm curious, how much influence do you have on the rankings, or is it just Leone just using his, or is it really a back and forth? Like it seems to be. I've got the impression that ETR, it's more of a like discussion, like constantly. Is that accurate, or is it just we're using Leone's projections for the most part and then adjusting a little bit?
We could and honestly should do a weekly podcast over the Slack articles, because that's kind of where everything is derived from. Like it starts with the Leone's projections, but then it just gets into the logic of Herzig, the reality of me punching them in the face about football. And then like we just mix it in with Sam Sherman, Silva, obviously, Levitan, Dink, literally Wiggins, Taylor, everyone, Anthony Amico is involved in that Slack. And then we kind of pressure everything. Like if someone has a high point, then we go ahead and maneuver. We, as we call it, fudging the projections. We fudge it a little bit to give someone a higher target share, higher ceiling base. But honestly, like those conversations are had every single day, every single morning. It's literally content within itself whenever I log into the ETR Slack.
Yeah, you really should make content. I would enjoy just seeing the conversation that's happening. A lot of great minds at work. They're, obviously we get to see the end result, so that's probably the most important thing. Those of us who subscribe can just use the ETR rankings. But it would be cool to see how you come to those decisions. I'd definitely be interested in seeing that Slack. Debro here, who Debro for a while, as I recall, his Twitter handle was Ugly John Daigle, and now he's saying calling you Pretty Daigle. Some people just call you John Daigle, but Debro calls you Pretty Daigle. Appreciate a bunch of you guys coming and hanging out with us. We're just gonna jump into a draft. Are you ready to get into a draft, John?
Do it. Let's do it. It's just what I've been doing like the last 2 months of my life. So what's another one?
Yeah, let's jump into a BBM5 draft. This is somewhere in the mid 30s for me. I don't know the exact number, but if you guys want to jump into a draft with us, get in now.
And then
Oh, and it's
I don't know how
almost
this I don't know how this works, but I can like Zelle you because I'm a boomer or Venmo you after this. Just let me know.
you don't need to send me any money. Your what you paid me with is your appearance on my show. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay, that's a good
and
appearance
anybody who
fee.
comes,
It's
yeah,
like helping a friend move. Like now, I still only charge like beer. It's like yeah, you buy the beer, and I help you move. No big deal.
yeah, no, it's yeah, coming on the show, and anybody who comes on the show gets has 50% equity in the lineup. Of course, I say only for the final. If you wanted though, if you wanted to get your equity from the second round or whatever, I'd be happy to pay it out. You're gonna have to send me that shameful Venmo request in that
Absolutely
scenario.
not.
Otherwise, I'm
The
only paying out for the finals appearances.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think the great Chess Liam was the first one that introduced that, and I've just kind of attached to him the last 2 years. And that, yeah, any live drafts I do with friends as well. It's like if we make the finals, you will absolutely get your share.
Yeah.
Otherwise, eat that $100. Like I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Because that's generally my approach. Is like, yeah, if you come on my channel to draft with me, I'll give you 50% of whatever we win, as long as we make the final.
And now it's really those conversations are really fun because if you make the last round of Best Ball Mania, you make up for all 150 of your entries. Like the EV is
Yeah.
great this year, such a much flatter payout structure, which a lot of us were arguing for. So yeah, those conversations will definitely be had if we make the last round.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is definitely more making the finals this year. I think is more exciting than it's ever been. Even though the top prize is lower, it's just like your chance of hitting like significant money is so much higher this year than
Yep.
it has been any other year. So I'm pretty psyched about it. All right, we're coming up on the 7 hole.
Okay.
So we got at the top
What
of.
is your typical strategy from the mid round here?
So I'm usually a zero RB bro, but in the 7 hole, I don't hate taking Bijan or Brees Hall if you like one of these guys. Yeah, I'd say I'm typically zero RB.
I'm fine with either Puka or AJ Brown.
Okay.
If you would like to go that route, it's probably the preference. I don't mind either way. I'm either zero or I latch on to an anchor running back at like the second, third round turn. It typically ends up being Achan or Kyron Williams, but we can talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, I mean we could do Kyron here. We kind of mid second round would be our next pick. He hasn't. I kind of thought that Kyron was going to fall more than he has. I was sort of hoping that I'd be able to get more third round Kyron. Hasn't been
Yep.
happening as much as I thought it would after they signed Blake Corum. So now I'm probably gonna have to move back and just say, okay, I'm willing to take him, mid late second round if that's where he's going to go, because I don't want to be fading Kyron too much after the year he had last year.
Right. And a lot of it did come down, although he performed really, really well, a lot of it did come down to just straight up workload that he received. So we'll see.
Yeah.
The most recent report, Schefter out of training camp said that they're still eyeing the 15 plus touches per game, but still would like to limit him by getting Corin more involved. So even if we think 15 to 20 touches per game for Kyron, Sean McVay has historically leaned on one running back going all the way back to Todd Gurley. That includes like CJ Anderson in the playoffs. Like, yeah, I would love to target that one back. So it's best ball. We probably will get a couple starts from Corum in there, but as long as Kyron's healthy, yes, he's someone I'd love to, like you said, I thought he was going to fall further. You could still get him in the third round in most cases. So I don't mind latching on to hero Kyron Williams running back.
Yeah. We probably doesn't make sense for us at the 18th pick, but I guess we'll see what's available to us in this draft.
Oh,
I
no,
wouldn't
we don't
hate
need
it
to do that.
yeah.
The back end is also fun right now because especially on Underdog, since it's an entirely different conversation than anywhere else. Like we're trying to get these wide receivers before they just get sponged in the first 6 or 7 rounds. Like the back end is really good because Drake London, we at ETR even have him ranked as the wide receiver 10 overall, even though he's still not really being treated like that in drafts. And so right now you can double tap and have Drake London as your wide receiver 2 and still go the anchor or zero RB approach that you and I like.
Yeah, I feel like I think I listened to a pod with Leone where he said that he actually prefers Drake London over Garrett Wilson, which is a bit of a hot take, but also something that I don't really disagree with. Like I kind of view them like very very similarly. Drake London like is a more fun click to me than Garrett Wilson, which I don't know why that is exactly. Why Garrett Wilson is just for whatever reason I just don't enjoy that click right now. Whereas Drake London just feels like okay, he's ready to explode. I want to click this guy. So yeah, not a take that I disagree with, but a little bit of a hot take to have Drake London over Garrett Wilson there.
And he'll probably be fine. The way the Jets created their offense through free agency, it's historically not a approach that has worked. Like, I think everyone looks at it and says on paper they're just fine now, but like 1-year deals littered for both aging and often injured players, not really an exact science that has led to success. So I just consider the Jets really volatile. We have these arguments in the Slack all the time because Levitin is very high on the Jets, and I'm just really worried because 2 years ago, last time we saw Aaron Rodgers full time with the Packers, he was literally in a below average quarterback by every metric accountable. I thought last year was going to be shaky if we didn't even get to see it play out. Now I just genuinely, his range of outcomes are far more volatile than people perceive right now.
Just one year older, as you said already, like seemed to be on the decline. Yeah, definitely agree with you there. At the same time, it's like hard not to be an upgrade over Zach Wilson. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be Hall of Fame Aaron Rodgers, but also probably better than Zach Wilson. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting conversation to be had about Garrett Wilson. All right, Jonathan Taylor, Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel. We could reach for Kyron. What do you think about this spot?
No need to do that. Jonathan Taylor is not really someone I latch onto either. So I'm fine with going one of the top 2 receivers. I don't know if you have a preference here with Ayuk or Devontae.
Let's go Devontae just because of the 3 playoff games in domes in the 3 play. I mean, I kind of feel like that's already factored in a little bit because I had been taking Ayuk over Devontae. So I don't know. Yeah, I kind of just mix up who I'm taking there. I don't have a real strong take there. Do you have a strong lean between those guys?
No strong lean, honestly. I'd really think, as you said, the indoor environment, weeks 15 through 17, the only NFL team that not only plays indoors in weeks 16 and 17, the money rounds, but also week 15. They just got the best stretch ever. And so I usually try to get my exposure to the Raiders by latching on to the last round guys. Trey Tucker still had day 2 capital last year. Alexander Madison's a player everyone wanted to take in the 6th round last year. And now you could get him not only the last round, but his only competition is a day 3 back who's unproven. Like, sure, right. I'll make that bet literally 1,000 out of 1,000 drafts. So I usually get my exposure now at the very end, as opposed to latching onto these guys. But when you talk about tiers, right? If you go to the established to run tiers, like I, of course, have Adams in this same range with all these guys, Stephon Diggs included. So yeah, just take your pick.
Yeah. How far does that tier go? Because I think Stephon Diggs, I sort of consider part of that tier also. I never take Diggs over Devontae Adams, but I do kind of consider them to be about the same tier. So I'm curious how big that tier is. And I guess we can go to establish the run and take a look at those tiers.
I'm going to go to establish the run, and take a look. Because again, I play with them every morning just to make sure, especially because Underdog is the only site right now where it shifts crazily as it did last year. Like, you can literally miss an ADP advantage within 12 hours. So I like to make sure they're live for everyone. But right now we have Adams in, let's see here, alongside, I'm looking, where is he? So alongside the Marvin Harrison, Olave, Devonta Smith, Mike Evans, along that tier.
Okay. So ahead of, so it is ahead of Stephon Diggs, and
ahead of Ayuk Deebo combo. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we got
for
the guy who's in your top tier there.
Yeah. Same thing for Nico Collins as well. We have him ahead just because Nico Collins wasn't like, I love Nico Collins. Don't get me wrong. Obviously got the extension, but Nico Collins breakout happened whenever others were off the field. Like, he dominated then, but it still took Tank Dell and others being injured for Nico Collins to earn targets. That's always concerning whenever you are strictly a boundary receiver, getting a lot of your targets and catches in contested situations, and you weren't previously earning targets. So whereas Devontae Adams has obviously boasted this immaculate target share wherever he's gone, it has dipped for 2 consecutive seasons now as he gets older, but he's still a target earner.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy that I think we can count on. So looking at your tiers now, who would you take in this upcoming? So we have DJ Moore, Malik Neighbors, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman among receivers. Otherwise, we could go Laporta, Derrick Henry, or quarterback.
We are very high on Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith just one ranking, not even tiered, one ranking lower than Devontae Adams. We're just expecting a bounce back for Philadelphia's offense as a whole.
Love that.
Remember, like the last 9 games, I believe it was, for Jalen Hurts. They're so ignorable because he was dealing with that ankle injury. For his career, he had averaged over 12 carries per game. Those last 9 games, he averaged 6.5. Not the same player. Also, he only averaged 6.5 yards per attempt, which is terrible. He was a bad passer too. You could tell in that playoff game against the Bucs, no one was wanting to get to the Cayman Islands faster than the Eagles offense was. So if we're just ignoring the second half of the season and assuming the Eagles offense will be elite again.
Yeah, love that. So we got the Devontae stack, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith. Feel pretty good about this start. This 3 wide receiver start with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith. We are going 0 RB as God intended so far.
As God intended on Underdog. Yes.
Yeah, right.
It just makes life easier because everyone knows the drop off around the round 8 or 9, when then it becomes like literally you're just stuck with Jonathan Mingo and Adam Thielen. You're like, I don't want anyone in this tier at all. And everyone loves their last round guys, of course, but still, when you talk about actual target earners to add scoring weeks to your team, it's such a big drop off in half PPR and Underdog. So I do think the cliche 4 in the first 6-7 rounds, I do think it is true.
Yeah, I think that's I think Hayden Winks has dug into the research every year, and he's just found 4 in the first 7 rounds just advances so much more than if you don't go 4 wide receivers in the first 7 rounds. Or I think a minimum of 4 is what he's saying.
Last year was the most guys to have at least 28% of their team's targets in the last decade. 11 guys. And so what we assume that is just a big picture of football. Rookies are running more routes than ever. That's not necessarily a good thing because rookies are now coming from college-specific schemes that don't translate to NFL football. And so although they're on the field more because NFL is going spread more, it's not actually good because it's not meshing with how players are playing in college. And so that's why I think we see more players dominating in targets and everyone else just kind of trickling behind them, because now we're just limiting ourselves to the handful of first round receivers who deserve that type of target share to be projected with that. And then after that, it's just everyone just trying to learn to play football, honestly.
Right. And at the same time, that's happening, more and more NFL teams are going to running back committees. So it used to be you get a bunch of, 25 carry per game or 25 touch per game running backs. That's just a really rare thing these days. So it makes more sense to, get the back half of the committee, hope it breaks a different way than you expect, hope that you can get somebody who's going to benefit from an injury or a trade, that kind of thing. So yeah, there are multiple things going on that just lead to 0 RB making so much more sense than it made.
That's why they wanted, again, going back to the Slack conversations, they wanted, I don't know if they wanted to, but they were very open to pushing Achane out of the tier with Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley, and I just won't have it. I'm literally not having that conversation. Whenever you have a player who literally breaks the game of fantasy football in the 3rd round, that's always a player who needs to be in a ceiling tier, especially when you talk about, again, Barkley and Taylor, who are with rushing quarterbacks, and you could easily argue their ceilings are limited.
Who do you like here before we continue the conversation? We could get Trey McBride for the Week 17 run back on Puka, or we could go to T. Higgins, Pickens, Travis Kelce there.
I would go Kelce. Would you go Kelce over McBride?
Yeah, I was gonna say. McBride for the bring back. Let's go Kelce, and then we could potentially get a falling. Patrick Mahomes has been, his ADP is 47. I feel like I've seen him fall to pick 60 recently for whatever reason.
And I think it's because and so what happens, as you know, in these drafts is quarterbacks are the ones to fall 20 spots because of their stacking partners. And so I think just because of Rashee Rice continuing to dip, Xavier Worthy's been hot, but Marquise Brown still fills in that 55 to 65 ADP. So thus it also pushes down Mahomes with everybody. And that's honestly that's what I have the most of right now across sites. As I've been telling everyone on other shows, it's as if we had a chance to buy Apple stock at its lowest point since 2017. Mahomes is literally coming off his first season ever under 20 fantasy points a game. He averaged a career low 17.5. It was his lowest touchdown rate for his career, which, as we know, annually regresses positively. Not only that, but it was the first time an Andy Reid offense passed for less than 30 touchdowns since Alex Smith offense did it in 2017 under him. Everything we know about the Chiefs from last year, just ignore it. They are expected to bounce back also with that L'Jarius Sneed, who was like the reason they had a Super Bowl winning defense. Chris Jones is awesome. L'Jarius Sneed literally shut down everyone. I was at a party where people had all bet Ayuk receiving overs in the Super Bowl. And I was like, y'all clearly didn't look up anything on Sneed because all he does is shut down opposing boundary receivers. It's like the one team you don't play outside receivers against. And so I think the Chiefs are in line for more shootouts too, regardless of how they scripted their offense last year. So I've been trying to onslaught Chiefs offenses these first couple of months of Best Ball Mania.
That's a really good point. If the defense gets worse, that helps the offense so much. It's hard to predict that year over year. At least I don't know how to predict like how good defenses are going to be. Like it feels like it's so volatile. Like even last year, like the Eagles, the Lions, the 49ers, a lot of teams that were awesome early in the year, and like it was hard by the end of the year. It was like, oh, these defenses suck now. You need to be targeting these defenses. Just like it changes so quickly with how good defenses are.
There is no skeleton key. Like the Eagles, I think when I wrote my team preview last year, you could just kind of like the Bills this year. You can look at literally all the snaps they lost. Even Buffalo, I think, lost 49% of their defensive snaps from last year. And so you just kind of look at the hogs that they lost, the guys who are literally just in there getting all the reps. And usually when you have to replace guys who are getting all the reps, it's not necessarily a good thing. So the Eagles are going to be completely different this year, but I would say a team like that is probably Miami and Buffalo. Buffalo's offense, we obviously have more confidence in than Tua whenever he goes into the winter months. Just such a disaster.
Yeah, never
sending that
never
man
so
to
far.
Cleveland in week 17. What are we doing?
Just brutal. Yeah, that could
Not
be
fair.
that could be a cheat code, is making it there without, like, if Miami is great all year, the cheat code could be just like making it to the final without. Of course, I say cheat code like it's something we can really have control over. Really, really hard to control something like that, but feels like a spot where you'd love to not have a dominant Miami team there.
Oh yeah,
All right,
this
we
is it,
just go.
right?
Yeah,
This
we
is it.
get Mahomes, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely
Pretty
it.
straightforward.
I wrote this in my tiers too. I'll just like read it verbatim because my brain is not this good. But again, the tiers for me, especially this time of year of best ball drafts, I'm not really about like, I have player takes, but I'm not really about that. I always like to start my own process of the offseason with rookies first off. And then once the teams are set, that's when you start looking into team and just offensive level aggression. Like what happened last year, and do we think it's going to come backwards, go forwards, or whatever? And for the quarterbacks, I'm back in on elite quarterback this year. It's harder on Underdog in particular because, again, everyone's grabbing wide receivers, and I just don't want to find that cliff where I then don't think my receiver 6 on aren't usable. But last year, everyone did try to go elite quarterback. Remember, they were going in the mid-second round, and it didn't work out. But I would argue it wasn't supposed to work out last year since it was Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes last offseason that became 3 of only 12 quarterbacks since 2013 in the last decade to average over 24 points per game. They were never numbers that were going to sustain anyways. And everyone instead latched onto those results thinking they're sustainable when we should be looking at what is not sustainable this time of year. And so that didn't work. The quarterbacks obviously went backwards, but then they went backwards in a way where we should think they're going to now come back, the top half at least. Like even Josh Allen, he was the QB1 and he only outscored Justin Herbert, the QB12, by 5.1 points per game. Usually it's been a lot closer than that. So that's the long nerdy way of saying I'm back in on elite quarterback. The big 4, especially Mahomes included.
All right, so the big 4 being Hurts, Allen, Lamar, Mahomes.
Yes, and only because Mahomes has outscored Lamar, Hurts, and Allen at least once in each of the last 3 seasons. He's proved that he is a passing god, whereas CJ Stroud, who literally doesn't add anything with his legs, I think it's a little too much hype if you're just playing the overall game of fantasy football. Because like Anthony Richardson, Mahomes, or Anthony Richardson in particular, like since in his 4 starts, he led every quarterback in rushing points per game. He has outs. He has ways to outscore and have usable weeks over Stroud. Mahomes is just the overall better passer in the better passing environment. So yes, Stroud is the one who I'm definitely down on compared to everyone else. And it's not even like, my QB6 is not being down, but still that's down compared to public.
Yeah, where he's going in drafts is right there in that tier. All right, so we are on the clock. We have no running backs. We have three wide receivers and one tight end already. Do you want to go down to one of these three wide receivers in McConkey, Addison, or Godwin? Would you rather get our first running back here? How do you feel about this?
I can't do McConkey. I'd be open to Rashad White, but I think Godwin, right?
I
Addison or Godwin for me.
All right, I'd be happy to go either Addison or Godwin also. So we'll just grab Godwin here. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Ladd. I think a lot of people like. I think the argument for him is he seemed to be like he might be good in college, and also could just step into an immediate opportunity, like be the wide receiver one there. But I'm not as confident as the public is that Ladd is going to just step in and be the wide receiver one over like a Josh Palmer. Like I prefer at ADP, and this is in line with at least the last time I uploaded ETR. ETR was way ahead of the field on Josh Palmer. Is that still true? Is that still correct that it's like the ETR like philosophy is kind of or thinking is that Josh Palmer is right there in that competition for the wide receiver one?
Oh, absolutely. Josh Palmer has been significantly better without Mike Williams and Keenan Allen on the field. So, yes, we still believe Josh Palmer's a player there. It really comes down to how quickly the transition is going to be because, this is not Palmer's regime that drafted him. That's always concerning when you look at these players getting their new coaching staffs. But also, this is the last year of Palmer's deal. So usually it then becomes later in the season, the guy who is under contract for the following year. And I just don't know how quickly a McConkey will take over. Probably will be the guy at season's end. But if we still get a half a season of usability out of Josh Palmer, those are chances I'm definitely willing to take, especially when the market is betting on the other end.
Yeah. And I mean, probably will be at season end if he does work out. Like if he proves himself to be as good as people think he's going to be, then he will be. But I think there are scenarios where Palmer just holds on as the wide receiver one.
It's Underdog specific where the rookie fever also takes its toll. Whenever, Kamadi Vidal is a 13th round pick, a round 6 back. Okay, everyone calm down. You're all clearly just bored. Whenever Ben Sinnott, who literally won the award for the nation's best fullback last year in college, whenever he's a 13th round pick, again, you're just trying to tell everyone, calm down. You're all bored. Go outside for a little bit and come back and look at this decision again.
Yeah, spot on. All right, so our pick coming up here. I don't hate David Montgomery as a first running back in a zero RB build. Also wouldn't hate just continuing to build out these wide receivers. We got Brian Thomas, Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins.
How much longer?
Rashee Rice. We could.
I was about to say, yeah. How much longer do we think Rashee Rice lasts? And do we even want to risk that? Do we just want to take him now?
I say we just take him because I don't feel that strongly about anybody else like being the best pick there.
That's fine. He probably will get suspended. I think the rumor now is somewhere between 2 to 4 games. Yeah. But again, we'll get that player back at the end of the year. And we can also find ways to solve this. I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is becoming popular in the last round. We're gonna do that again, but it goes to the structure of drafting running backs in 24. It's like that group right now that is considered the RB 4 through 12, they're all just so fragile. I fight for Achane, but it's because not only does, again, like I mentioned earlier, he breaks the game of fantasy football when you get him right and his ceiling outcome, but it's also because, unlike everyone else, we're also not worried about Achane's workload because he's never going to be a 20-touch back. It's like we are getting the workload from last year, 12 touches per game. That's all I need. That's all I want because he still proved that you needed him to literally win everything when he was healthy. So I don't mind going away from that, but everyone else in the mix, there are just so many black spots that you could just argue between aging, between workload, between everything else, trends as well, where I just don't mind waiting and just continuing to wait. And that includes Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, it's hard for me to just have any confidence in running backs as a good bet, just because it feels like there's just so much more volatility in terms of injury. Like even Christian McCaffrey. It's I don't think that we should be making the assumption that he's going to get hurt. Obviously, people were doing that the past couple of years, and then he just absolutely crushed anybody who doubted him. People had decided he was injury prone, and then he wasn't. But then it's even Christian McCaffrey. It's well, now he has so much load on his body. He's been playing for so long. It's at some point everybody reaches that point where they're going to get injured. They just have a little bit too much wear and tear on their body. So even the ones that I feel the safest about, which would be Christian McCaffrey in this case, is still but he has a lot of mileage on his body, lot of carries to him. So there's some concern with every running back, which is part of the reason we push it. Zamir White, DeAndre Swift, we're in a long slew of running backs here. Do you have a favorite among this group?
It'd probably be Najee Harris among this group, sadly. Yeah, I'm just looking at this again. I like Zamir White as a player, but it's teetering towards the Alexander Madison territory where we are still in the range of the offseason where you're putting players into buckets and you're saying, like, why have you never been in this bucket? And Zamir White, he's only had a couple seasons to get it right, but he's never been a workhorse running back. Not only that, but his 4 months last year where he depended on 23 touches per game, it also boiled down to the game scripts going right. What happens when the game scripts aren't right? Like, what happens when the Raiders are in a shootout or behind? And we just don't know his workload. So to me, if you can bet against a day 3 back in that kind of situation, it's just really easy to do.
Yeah, I think the Alexander Madison bet is pretty sharp, and I've done it a little bit. It has not been a huge priority for me. I don't think I've taken a share of Trey Tucker, who you also mentioned, which I think is a really good shout out. Like that is a great 18th round pick. Just making that bet on a year. Is he year 2 or year 3 at this point?
He'll be a sophomore, and he was drafted
Okay.
on day 2 last year. So
Yeah.
much better capital than a lot of these other bums I'm throwing darts at.
Yeah, and he's a speedy guy in the 18th round, could just take a big leap. So I kind of like that as an 18th round bet that I don't think I've made yet. Whereas Madison is like, yeah, I don't think he's particularly good, but at the same time, it's not really going to matter if he just gets opportunities, which we think he's probably going to get some opportunities. The most experienced of any back there. So I like
When
that
they
call.
drafted the chat, CLN says Dylan Labe, and when they drafted him, like, they called him a return specialist. That's never good. It's like when let's go on a tight end gets drafted and they name him a blocker. It's like, oh yeah, you're
Right.
done. Darnell Washington, like, we'll never know. Could be the best receiving tight end in the league, but we'll literally never know because he's also one of the best blocking tight ends. And
Right.
when you're like that, you just get pigeonholed for the rest of your career. It's like such an easy dynasty fade where, oh, this guy's already named this. Like, I never want to touch you ever.
Yep. Yep. That was interesting. So we get a running back in a long slew of running backs, and now we're into a big mix of different position choices to make here. Could go Pollard here. I wouldn't hate, Sutton. Lockett, I know, is a guy that ETR likes. Singletary, I like. Brian Robinson. A lot of good picks in this range, in my opinion. We're at 1151.
I think I'd be okay with Tony Pollard here if you want to continue adding running backs. I'm looking around because we're betting on Mahomes, so we don't need like a Jaden Daniels. So yeah, Pollard's fine. I mean, Pollard should be neck and neck. Him and why is the name slipping my mind? Tajay Spears, should be neck and neck just because in best ball, they're going to both find opportunities and have usable games. I just don't think there's ever going to be a specific situation where one or the other wins that spot. So like everyone, if your rankings for your tiers, you should just honestly keep them like right there with each other.
Yep. I think that is
both pass catching backs. Tajay Spears, although it was limited work, looked great on that limited work. But again, it's a situation where you talk about like a day 3 back. Those players historically have been just like usurped, especially in new regimes. Tony Pollard, everyone forgets, was literally the second running back to sign off the open market. The Titans passed on everyone else, went straight to Tony Pollard after DeAndre Swift signed with Chicago. So I think it's just a situation where both fall in line, both have usable weeks throughout the year.
Yep. I think that is exactly right. And I've been drafting him that way. Also, it's kind of like I draft Tony Pollard earlier because that's where ADP tells me if I want to get Pollard shares, this is where you need to draft him. But also totally fine getting a late Tajay Spears. I've been taking him a lot in like the Eliminator because I think Tajay Spears is like kind of at the end of a tier of running backs for me. I'm curious. Speaking of you do the tiers, so you can tell me. Do you have Tajay Spears in a long tier of running backs, or is he? How do you have the running backs ranked out around here?
Yeah, I mean, all those guys and so I also like to look. I like to make sure, and this goes back to when I was with Roto World. I always make sure the top of a tier and the bottom of a tier align, and that the bottom guy could perceivably outscore the top guy. I want to make sure they're all grouped together. That way, when you get into a situation and say, I don't know, like one of these backs, there's still 6 here, so I can pass on that tier and let the running backs come to me because they're all the same guy. And so right now, yes, let's see who we have here because it's a big one. It's a very big one.
Yeah.
It starts there with.
We're on the clock. So Rashid Shaheed is a kind of standing. Actually, we have Jacoby Myers, Joshua Palmer there. Otherwise, we go running back. Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Gus Edwards. We could take Jaden Daniels and backstack him. We got a lot of choices here. Anybody that stands out to you?
Who stands out to you right now? I got caught looking away.
I mean, we could go Shaheed or.
Oh yeah, Shaheed. Let's get Shaheed. I always do Shaheed.
I'm a big Shaheed fan. Of course, he's our 6th receiver, so we are, probably only need 1 to 2 more receivers in this group, I would think, and we probably need to start loading up on some running backs. I mean, our onesies are good. We have Mahomes and Kelsey, so like we need at least 1 more at each of those, but like we're in a good spot where we probably only need 2 of each. So yeah, we're going to be probably loading up on some running backs pretty soon.
And to answer your question, that's why I got lost. I was looking at it. Yes, it is Tony Pollard in the same tier as Zach Moss, Javonte Williams, Tajay Spears, Devin Singletary, Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Brooks, like that group of players, all the same guy.
And you have Chase Brown a little bit behind that tier. Did you say you have Gus Edwards in that tier, or is it
Gus Edwards is in that tier? Okay. Yes. Chase Brown 1 tier behind for, again, you're talking about just the overall ways of playing fantasy football. Undersized day 3 back. Zach Moss was a workhorse, whereas Chase Brown was not.
Yeah.
Zach Moss was. He had two seasons. Whenever Jonathan Taylor's out the first month run, Zach Moss destroyed. Like you could argue only Christian McCaffrey was better than him, even from like a actual playing standpoint. Jonathan Taylor got injured again. Zach Moss got put back into an every down role, and he turned back into Zach Moss. He's just the same guy who broke tackles, but ran sideways. Could not get forward whatsoever. But he was still a workhorse back, whereas it's only been 1 year, but again, undersized day 3 back. You ask who could be the workhorse, you're probably leaning on Zach Moss over Chase Brown a majority of the time. So I like to bet on Zach Moss.
Yeah, that's like I consider them. I say that I think of them as being in the same tier, but also I don't think I've ever taken Chase Brown when Zach Moss is still there. So like I definitely consider Zach Moss better than Chase Brown, which that's kind of how tiers work. Like if you're never taking this running back over this running back, then yeah, I guess they are in a little bit different tiers. So that makes sense to me.
And Shaheed's interesting because he's in my late round stacks article I have on the site. We have the Saints. I pushed for this one too. We have the Saints as our 3rd best late round stack because all their guys go late. Shaheed usually start there and you can finish it out, including A.T. Perry, Kendry Miller, really easily. But Shaheed is actually ranked 24th in yards per route run among all players the last 2 years. Like he's actually been really good.
We're on the clock here. I just wanted to let you know. And we have Gus Edwards available to us. At Chase Brown, I feel like Gus Edwards probably a good pick here.
Yes, Chase Edwards. I'm looking. Do we need a receiver or are we good right now?
No, we have 6 receivers already. I feel like we have a really strong receiving core. I'll read off our team just to recalibrate where we're at. So we have Mahomes at quarterback. At running back, we have Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards. Wide receiver, we have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Rashee Rice, Rashid Shaheed, and at tight end we have Travis Kelce. So we're pretty loaded up at wide receiver. I would say we only need probably 1 or 2 more. I think that at this point, I'm mostly inclined to hammer running backs until we see another quarterback or tight end that kind of fits our build.
That completely works for me. Again, this is the year where the ambiguity with backfields makes it simple to just now start piling on these guys. There are many athletic pass catchers. That's usually the traits I go for. And then hopefully they just figure out their own roles. So we're about to reach that range where, I'm about to start spitting out some other guys.
Love it. Okay, perfect. And I've been meaning to acknowledge chat. We're sort of at a weird spot in the board where it's like I never feel like I have time to acknowledge anybody in chat because it's like we're always coming back to our pick. It feels like we're right in the middle here. But yeah, good to see you, Bindles, Tyler, Kevin. Glad you're all excited to be here. Already talked with.
We mentioned Debro earlier. CLN is being very active in the chat as well.
Oh yeah, love CLN.
Nick is hanging out too.
Chris here. What's up, Chris? How much is the penis size model factored into the ETR rankings?
I am not sex joke guy. I'll let Levitan run with that. That is not my lane. I would actually probably just remove them, all sex jokes altogether. But
you're not a fan.
The people love it. Levitan, that's just who he is. It's like when you become a wrestler. I'm very big into pro wrestling, by the way, Neil. I didn't know if you know this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm one of those guys who didn't outgrow like the 90s, so I still love it. But when you become a wrestler, because I really thought about going to wrestling school at one point in my life. I loved it so much. But they say like you just take your personality and amp it up to 11. That's basically like what the sex bit. Adam is just taking his own personality and just cranking it up and just being all in with it.
That's really funny. All right, so we have Jerome Ford, Zach
I
Charbonnet, Rico
love
Dowdle.
Jerome Ford.
Let's go. I
Love
love
Jerome
Jerome
Ford.
Ford also. I am a bit of a bye week bro, and he is a week 10 bye week, which we don't have a week 10 bye week running back yet. So he fits our team just perfectly for my bye week OCD. Because we have two week 5 running backs now. So I'm like, I don't want any more of those guys.
Fair.
But yeah, this is looking good to me.
Jerome Ford is just a really nice hedge against Nick Chubb, who we don't know when and if he's going to return. And when he does return, is he just like most likely like Javonte Williams last year, who everyone argues about Javonte Williams getting the workload, but the red flags was always about what happens if Javonte plays, and he averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Like he literally just got the touches and did nothing with them. So that's what I would argue Nick Chubb is, especially because Chubb for his career, as great as he's been, is not a target earner. Like his target share has been negligent for every year in his career. So yeah, I like betting against that with Jerome Ford, who they obviously leaned on, and that was with Kareem Hunt, who's no longer there.
Yeah, I feel like the Ford thing should have been obvious to me immediately because I've been fading Chubb, but it took me until like I've been doing this for a while, so a month or two ago, where I was like the light bulb kind of went off. I was like, if I'm fading Nick Chubb, I should probably be in on Jerome Ford, and I started kind of moved him up. I think he's a great zero RB target because we're just making the bet against Chubb. We're making the bet. If we're making the bet against Chubb, it makes a lot of sense to make the bet on Ford, and also Deontay Foreman in the 18th round is another guy that I sometimes mix in if when I don't take Jerome Ford there, then I say, hey, could be Deontay Foreman if we're betting against Chubb also.
The Ricky Pearsall pick in this range is also interesting because now, as the chat mentioned, Jawan Jennings just re-upped to a 2-year deal. Like, I don't even know how Pearsall gets on the field in year 1. Like he's just blocked. He's like Jackson with the Jigba. He's blocked from every direction.
I mean, there were conversations at one point about both Debo and Ayuk being on the trading block. It feels like that's not going to happen at this point. So I want to be in on Pearsall. I want to bet on the talent, the team environment, but at the same time, I'm kind of with you where it's like I have a harder time envisioning that happening than I have like Jermaine Burton, where it's like I think he's already probably going to be on the field in a great offensive environment. I think he's the favorite to win that wide receiver role as is. And then you also have the T Higgins potential trade out. Do you see it the same way, or how do you feel about Jermaine Burton?
Yeah, I don't mind Jermaine Burton. I've really just been trying to take a deeper shot, trying to figure out like who is going to win the role. Probably Andre Yoshivas. That's kind of the
Okay.
the,
You
the
think
hot
Yoshivas
the
is
hot
the
pick
favorite?
at the end. Yeah, but Burton, he just has like one special talent. He had a 20 dot for his career at Alabama. Like he's one of the guys who I was very high on in the process, even though he wasn't getting like even second round grades. I just kept thinking if he gets draft capital, like he's so talented. He's like poor man's Odunze, and that he does one thing, but like Jalen Hyatt, when he does that one thing right, Burton's going to deliver scoreable weeks. So I do like Burton a lot still.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of I'm hedged a little bit because I took a ton of Andre Yoshivas in pre-draft stuff.
Didn't we all? Yeah.
And I've taken a little bit in the post-draft stuff also, which I think at this point he's a guy who's not drafted in most drafts. I would say Yoshivas is kind of not a lot of people are going to have him, so taking a bit there, but then also taking a lot of Burton in the middle rounds, making that bet. All right, so where are we at? So we did not get Josh Palmer. I don't think we want a quarterback in this range. We could go Roman Wilson as a bring back to our Mahomes in week 17. We could go one of these running backs. If anybody you like in this range, Hunter Henry.
I mean, a lot of them, honestly, the running backs in particular. Yeah.
Name one?
Ray Davis or Tyler Algier, totally fine.
Okay.
As long as it's not a reach.
Yeah, it's not a reach. We're right around ADP there. 7 picks ahead of ADP on Ray Davis. Looks good.
Whenever Joe, oh gosh, what the Bills OC, Joe Brady took over last year in the second half of the season. Only the Broncos had a higher running back target rate than the Bills. And it wasn't even necessarily like James Cook was leaned on more. It's just the running backs were leaned on more. They tried to take James Cook's goal line role. Latavius Murray was so bad at it that then they had to call up Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, guess what? Spoiler alert, was very bad at it. So they just had no choice then but to keep Ty Johnson involved with James Cook. But Ray Davis was good, double-digit target share in college. There's a very good chance he opens with that receiving role in an ambiguous backfield. So, yeah, I still like taking shots on Ray Davis.
Receiving and goal line back, yeah, sign me up for that in the 13th round. In a great offense, also, yeah, I think he's a very strong pick. Where we got him.
That game was so funny too, because like I wanted to tweet out like because the Bills were averaging the first half 8.5 yards per carry. You knew it was unsustainable, and you also
Right.
knew like if they were taking the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, like they were going to lose. They weren't ever going to win that game when they didn't let Josh Allen take over, and everyone was excited. It's like no, like this is not like the Chiefs are going to win this game easily.
Right.
And then of course the Bills averaged 3.5 yards per carry in the second half and just got dunked on.
Yeah, as expected.
Yeah.
All right, so here's where we're at. We have one quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Our running backs are Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Ray Davis. Our wide receivers are Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Rashee
Good
Rice,
receivers.
Rashid Shaheed, and then we have Travis Kelce at tight end. So again, we could throw a Matthew Stafford on here. We do have Puka Nacua. Stafford is falling a little bit past ADP. We could also throw Baker Mayfield on there. We have Chris Godwin. So I think we could take a quarterback here and just be done at quarterback.
How long do you think we can wait on something like that?
So this is we probably want to take one with this pick if we want either Stafford or Baker. Otherwise, we could push it to like Derek Carr late if you have any confidence in Derek Carr or like we could make it a 3 quarterback team and take Derek Carr and Gardner Minshew if we wanted to. But if we want this to be a 2 quarterback team, I think we probably want to make it on this pick.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind waiting for Derek Carr. We could also then probably round it out with Jawan Johnson, add some help there. So I really don't mind that stack. But if you want to get Matthew Stafford out of the way, that's okay too. We have 6 receivers. Demarcus Robinson always hangs around. He's one of my favorite picks in like round 15 on. So you can always do that too.
Yeah, it's a good call. Now I'm debating because I do like Jawan Johnson also.
Yeah, Jawan Johnson is just an easy every down tight end who no one drafts as an every down tight end.
Yeah.
He's like the perfect tight end 13 that goes at like tight end 20.
All right. So to me, it's between these two, Stafford or Jawan Johnson. Do you have any kind of lean? I mean, I guess Stafford is the ADP pick, or I don't really care. We don't need to pick by ADP. Do you have a preference? Do you want to just get Jawan Johnson and push it?
Let's go Jawan. Let's
go Jawan.
Listen, if someone snipes Carr, I mean, what are you doing? Just give us Carr.
Yeah.
No one wants
to queue up these quarterbacks, and then we can see who's available in the next round.
See, look how late Carr goes, despite being, if healthy, a 17-game starter. And they have an easy schedule every single year because they play not only indoors, but they also play the Panthers and the Falcons every year.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Continuing on, I started acknowledging chat. I'll continue. Tyler says, "Go Wolves." Anthony Edwards is so back. Yes, go Wolves. Love to see it. Wolves in 7 all day. Daigle, are you an NBA guy at all?
Yeah, well, you and I already talked about this.
We did talk about this.
I'm from Dallas Fort Worth area, and although like Cowboys ties have died, ties have died. Being in the industry for 10+ years, like you just lose your fanhood. At least I did. Now I just cheer for players to get paid, or just like good situations and good offenses as well. But Stars, Mavericks, and Rangers never die. Those are still my teams. So yeah, they're very, very, very big Mavs fan. I've watched every single game, even the regular season. And it's you versus I. Yeah.
Yep. We are going at it now. Yeah.
He said Anthony Edwards is back. He said he's back, but to be fair, Anthony Edwards is not the one who left. Like Cat was the one who was shooting just historically poor. And last night he was great. He got his confidence back.
Yeah, that was fun for me as a Wolves fan. Man, that's funny. I completely forgot. You were talking about coming up to Minnesota potentially for a Wolves Mavs game. I'm obviously a big Wolves fan, and yeah, I mean, Ant was struggling a little bit too. I actually think he was still struggling a little bit in the last game. Like he's not finishing like he has in previous series. Like at the rim, he's just like not getting it in the hoop somehow. He seems to be struggling a little bit, but yeah,
it's better than the first few games of the series where he was settling and not driving.
Yeah.
You still have to, as big as Gafford and Lively are, and Lively wasn't their last game. It changes their pick and roll sequence so much. Even last night, you could tell Dwight Powell kind of gets congested in the lane because he's just not as athletic or as a playmaker like Lively. So it'll be exciting to get him back. But yeah, Anthony Edwards just needed to drive more, get to the free throw line more. If your shots aren't going down, every like superstar knows like you still have to force yourself points on the board, and you do that by getting fouled.
Just find a shot that is going to work for you, whether that be a free throw or a layup. Yeah, I agree. Like just get into the paint if you are struggling. That makes a lot of sense. All right, our pick is coming. I mean, we get Stafford falls to us here. I kind of feel like we got to do it here, right? He's so
I'm
far
fine with
past
that.
ADP.
Completely fine with that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Stafford or Bucky Irving. So I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. And I don't mind Bucky Irving, but yes, Stafford's good.
Yeah, I feel like he's enough. We got enough value on Stafford here. Oh, but he's the same. Shoot, I missed that. He's the same bye week as Mahomes.
Oh no, we just made a rookie mistake.
Rookie mistake. So now we can't take another.
At least it's week 6. At least we get it out of the way early.
Yeah. So now to me, this would just be all right. Well, now it'll be a 3 quarterback team in my is how I would do this.
So we're still going to end up with Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think that would make sense for us.
It sucks to draft Mahomes and still end up with a 3 QB build, but I guess it's our mistake. It's our penance.
I mean, we don't have to. We could just forego the bye week on this team. Like not the end of the world to do so. Just my preference to get 3
these wide receivers these wide receivers are already getting ugly.
Yeah.
Who do we have left at running backs? We have 5 or no? Yes.
So we have Eli Mitchell. So sorted by ADP here. Oh, okay. Roshan Johnson, Damian Pierce, Deontay Foreman, Eli Mitchell, Keaton Mitchell, Tank Bigsby, Audric Estime, et cetera, et cetera.
We're in this range. Yeah.
Okay. Are in this range.
Yeah.
Sorted by ADP.
We can just find someone there. That's fine. I'm not. And this build, we probably will end up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just to get some kind of backdoor stack.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, we've got the double stack there with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, so don't necessarily need to do the backdoor stack, but I'm perfectly fine. I don't have a ton of CEH in my portfolio, so yeah, happy to add him onto this stack. I think it makes sense with this build. Like we don't have any like glaring need, but he certainly has like late round upside. All right, Demarcus Robinson goes. So we can't add him onto our Stafford stack, sadly.
Which is okay.
Yeah, I don't really care about that.
It's not fun, but it's okay. Because the only other Rams guy would be Colby Parkinson in this range.
Should we take Derek Carr here? We do have the double stack with Shaheed and Juwan Johnson.
CLN made me feel better. He says like Stafford's ADP was so egregious that it's fine having a 3 QB build because we got a good value on it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to do Carr or do you want to? I don't really have anybody else that I need.
No, Carr's fine.
So yeah, in that case, we'll just go with the guy we know we want.
New England is the one where like if you're in round 14 or 15, you don't have any stack yet. All those guys are going there. Yeah, just take your shots on their receivers. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
2 will figure it out.
I do that with Denver also with Bo Nix, but it's not, you can't get all the receivers there. It's kind of like you can get their potential wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, but it doesn't feel like New England. It's just like, we have no idea who's wide receiver 1. This guy could be the wide receiver 1. This guy I'm taking in the 18th round.
Bo Nix is really interesting because, the Justin Herbert lesson I learned was like athletes basically like if you're an athletic quarterback, if you're the prototypical size, but you didn't do well in college, it probably doesn't even matter, honestly. Like as long as you just get the capital, land in the right spot. And that was kind of Bo Nix. Like Bo Nix is an above average athlete, but the scheme at Oregon, not only that, but the fact that no one else at Oregon was outside of his center was drafted inside the first 4 rounds. Like that's pretty telling that he was a first round quarterback, but didn't have talent around him like Troy Franklin, but whatever. He's still a round 4, day 3 wide receiver. So and plus I believe Pro Football Focus graded Oregon's pass blocking as the best in the nation too. So I'm curious to see the Bo Nix thing because you could argue he's going to be a 17-game starter who's going in the last round of best ball drafts. So it will be curious to see his trajectory.
And a guy who runs also, like an 18th round pick who is going to start every game potentially. He runs a bit, in a Sean Payton offense. Maybe they make some improvements on last year. Yeah, it's super enticing to me. No guarantees obviously, but it's at least kind of fun. All right, so
it's not like, and you can have him in 3 QB builds like Jaden Daniels. I have enough confidence in the ceiling case for him. Like everyone likes to say, like, what if Jaden Daniels is a bust? But you shouldn't be playing Best Ball Mania if you're worrying about the bust rates, right? Like, we are literally shooting for the top. That's it. So I'm just saying, what if Jaden Daniels hits the ceiling? Because he averaged 9.7 rushing points per game at LSU. He obviously goes into a scheme with Cliff Kingsbury, Cliff Kingsbury is a terrible play caller, but Kyler Murray was the QB 12 in points per game as a rookie. And we also expect 17 games for a rushing quarterback and Jade Daniels as well. So 2 quarterback deals for him.
All right, we're going CEH here, and
Yep.
then we can figure out wide receiver, um, or whatever else we want. I guess we don't necessarily need to do wide receiver. We can kind of do whatever we want here. So sitting with our last pick coming, we have Mahomes, Stafford, Carr at quarterback. At running back, we have Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Ray Davis, CEH. At wide receiver, we have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Rashee Rice, and Rashid Shaheed. And at tight end, we have Travis Kelce and Jawan Johnson. So I think this is honestly a pretty good team. Pretty happy with the way it is shaking out. I know we've got Najee Harris as the bring back on our Mahomes stacks. I don't remember who everybody else is playing. So I know the Rams are playing the Cardinals in week 17. We
I need
could
a
throw on.
I need to text Bime4 and Rob Coakley and tell them to give you a spike week extension. So you have like the matchup slapped onto your underdog drafts.
Oh, do they have that there? Yeah,
they do have that there. Yeah.
I'm an affiliate. I have an affiliate deal with Spike Week, which you
Oh,
can get,
okay. Well, there you go. I
40%
don't need to text my friends anymore. You
Yeah.
get the extension, and usually in the draft room, it then has the abbreviations, the teams they play, like weeks 15 through 17, in green next to them. That way, you're always looking at it.
All right, I'll have to get that. I have
And
Brian
we get
Hooper.
to promote affiliate without me knowing, but we still get to do it. So that's good.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I'll have to try that sometime. I was using Brian Hooper's Draft Caddy at one point, which I think has some of that stuff in there as well. But then it was causing issues when I didn't want to use it my screen. So I'll try a bunch of different extensions. See what I like the best.
I think I'm doing a draft tomorrow with Bime4 as well for Spike Week. Myself, nice. Ben Gretsch, and Rich Rebar are all going to be on the stream.
That'll be fun. I'll have to check that out tomorrow. You'll be competing with Lols, which is, of course, weekly viewing for me. The Brick 75 Peter Overzet show.
I did do, although they talk about a lot of things now, but
they do.
I did play. I started watching that during the pandemic because we didn't have anything else to play, so I started playing League of Legends DFS, and it was fun. It only lasted through the pandemic for me, but I enjoyed my time both watching League of Legends and playing DFS.
Yeah, I never actually got into it. As a DFS addict, surprisingly, I did not get into all the weird. I think I played a little bit of KBO DFS, the Korean Baseball League, but I think that's all I did.
I draw the line at Madden simulations. Like you can't get me to play Madden Sims.
No.
But everything else I could probably be convinced is a degen.
Yeah. All right, so we're at 3662. We could go Greg Dortch onto as a run back on our Stafford stacks. I don't remember who New Orleans is playing in week 17. Probably chat has told me, and I'm waiting because I'm still trying to respond to people from way back when. So after we make our next pick, then I'll catch up on chat, and then we'll jump into one more draft here. Are you good with Greg Dortch here, or is there somebody else that you like? We could totally go Trey Tucker. Get one of your.
So the Saints play the Raiders week 17. So go Trey Tucker. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Love that. Because I've already got a good amount of Dortch.
I'm still, so my issue is I have a lot of the matchups memorized because, when you start doing it every day, you just get used to it. But I'm still blending last year's week 17 matchups with this one. So I was about to say the Bucks, and I was like, that's not true. Who are the Saints playing again? So I'm still having to look up.
Yeah, it's tough, like, because you have, again, the past 2 years. I think I still sometimes go back 2 years and what I think is going on. All right, so we have our team finalized. I will continue reading some chat. James asked me how softball went last night. It went very poorly. It was our first loss of the year. There were puddles all over the field, so I had to pitch off of not on the mound, which was kind of rough. And
you're a pitcher.
I'm a pitcher, yeah.
Okay.
We had a lot of fielding errors. I walked a couple guys. It was just it was a brutal game all around. I did get on base one of my 3 at bats. So just overall, it was a brutal game for the softball team. We were also missing 2 of our 3 best players, maybe. So it was a little bit rough. Are you a softball guy, Daigle?
I play, but I'm much better at defense. The speed of the softball really trips me up. Also, I play so much golf now. I think it's reverse where I had to correct my baseball swing from high school. And by the way, I was in to tout my career. I was all state. We made the Final Four as a senior. I was scouted. I was a center fielder who was 200 pounds and ran a 4.540. I deadlifted 600 pounds. I was a little athlete.
Damn.
Not anymore. Right. Now I go to therapy and I run. I'm so soft now in my old age. But I was a little athlete. But I was first at bat. We were down by 2 runs in the last inning of the Final Four game, and the opposing team brought in a pitcher who had been recruited to LSU. He threw his first pitch. It was a curveball. I backed out of the box because it was coming at me, and it was a strike. And that's when I knew my baseball career was over for the rest of my life. So I did not go play. I instead teetered away playing soccer. I was a goalie. And now, like you, I just lived my athletic career through rec league soccer every Thursday night.
That's great. Okay. So you were a real baseball player. See, you would dominate my softball league. I am in like the lowest level beer league around, or one of the lowest levels.
I don't have testosterone. Like, dude, again, I've become so soft in my old age that like I don't try to be competitive. I literally just try to find content and enjoyment in life. Like I go overboard to be content in life. I have to actually put effort into being happy. So like now I only join those leagues where no one gives a shit. Everyone's literally just about the camaraderie. I love those.
Yeah. No, you would fit in perfectly on my team. I mean, half my team is smoking pot before, during the game, just like super laid back group. We're drinking beers during the game. It is.
We are the dive bar, old style or high life before a game, like soccer team. Yeah. Even though I still like dive around, like I hurt myself all the time. I broke my finger. We were in the playoffs last season. I actually broke my finger because like we were playing D2 strikers. They could rocket the fucking ball, but I was still diving. Like I was still like all out, but it did include a couple of Miller High Lifes before the game. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, we usually drink after the game and during the game. Not as I guess some of the guys do get drinks before the game. We've done it before going to the bar once or twice before the game, but it is not something we do very often. I played in a fall league in Minneapolis once, or no, sorry. I played in a fall league in the suburbs once, and they took it way more seriously. And it was just like one league up from us. So really not a high level league, but it was just like, this is like a former baseball team all decided to play softball together, one of the teams. And they're also like, in our league, there's kind of like a rule, like a gentleman's rule of like, don't hit it back at the pitcher. They were just like rocking it up at the center at me. I was like, fuck this. Like did not enjoy my time in the suburb softball league.
It's amazing. You go up literally, as you say, it's not a large jump. It's like Antonio Gibson gets 5.3 million guaranteed. Derrick Henry gets 9 million guaranteed. But it's enough, like a one league jump in a suburban league is subtle enough, but also drastic enough where it's terrifying.
Yeah, it was not fun. Not fun one bit.
It's like the people who yell at their kids whenever their kids play children's sports. It's like just the people that take it way too seriously.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly what it was. Guys who also they wanted to get in fights with us. Anyway. I'll continue reading chat. We're going to jump into another draft here. Tyler says that you are his favorite John of all time. That's a nice comment. There's a lot of Johns out there. Al Boogie says Kyron fell to him at 34. So he does fall a little bit late sometimes.
And I know the workload again, that's what we're arguing here, but I would still bet, I still personally have Kyron Williams ranked over Saquon Barkley. Like the Trent, like just given the age and the offenses, Kyron to me is still the better play almost every time. So I still love Kyron in that mid 30s range for sure. Yeah.
And I'm not going to hit on every comment here, but I didn't realize that Brees was dealing something. Debro says I totally missed that. So that is something I will need to look into.
Yeah. But yes, this draft as Meatwad as C40 noted, he knows I don't have testosterone because he saw this team. Because this team is, I think it's a solid team, but it's also a boring one, right? It's not one that's ever going to get comments because it's just like cliche. We're playing by the rules of structured best ball here.
Yeah, that is very true. They, a high T drafter just goes 4 running backs to start the draft. You're just jamming it. You are establishing the run, as maybe you'd say it. It's a funny name that your company's name is Establish the Run, the company that you just joined. Whereas I think that most people at Establish the Run are Zero RB Bro. So it's kind of it's a funny name.
It's also a name that they knew what they were doing when they named it because it goes hand in hand, like it's a joke, or you could actually be totally serious about it and want to establish the run. It fits everyone's cliche.
So Kriath, this is a good question. Why Ford? He had a perfect opportunity last year and they promptly brought in Kareem Hunt. Now they have Foreman. Seems like the same duo. They don't trust Ford. I thought Ford was pretty good last year. I think they just need another running back there. Like to me, that was more an indication when they brought in Foreman that they're not confident in Nick Chubb returning than anything. Do you have any other take there, Daigle?
Well, Ford was the one who still hit his ceiling when Joe Flacco came in, especially in that Week 17 Jets game. Ford had 100 total yards and 2 touchdowns, I believe. Was one of many players that got there in that game. But it's also because he has the receiving background. He was actually a college receiver, so that's why he was so good at running routes too. But if we're taking out Kareem Hunt's 11.5 touches per game, there's no guarantee it goes to Deontay Foreman, all of them. Like, there's still upside baked here for Ford. So Ford to me is like, he's being drafted at his floor. Whereas, like, we need to start thinking about what happens for half a season or more if Nick Chubb doesn't return at all.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I'm skipping a lot of comments. Appreciate you all being here and chatting here. Just can't get to all of them, but we are crazy. You can drink before a soccer game. Did you say you were drinking before soccer games? I thought you were talking about softball. Drinking before soccer games is next level.
But like I run, like I literally run 30 to 50 milers. Like, I'm an ultra marathon runner. So
okay,
like, that's not like a beer before a run. That's how I live, let alone play soccer. So that's okay.
So you and Leone, I guess, Leone's also an ultra marathoner, right?
Yeah, he's striving. We are both striving to do more. I signed up for a 50 miler in Colorado in September. That's kind of the next big one on the map. I just ran, like, after he ran his 33-mile trail run, I ran my 31-mile run. It did admittedly, like, fuck up my feet though. Like, it was a wet day, and so like my socks were covered, which then led to blisters, which then led to like my toenails being mushed by the shoes. It was not. It was not. Well, it wasn't fun to the normal person, but to me, like, adversity is always what I'm seeking. Like, I'm trying to make myself stronger and put myself in the worst positions possible. Whereas most people, rightfully so, try to be comfortable. So it was just fine. Like, it made me better. It's okay.
Yeah, that is funny. So it's funny. You say that you strive to be comfortable in general. You're not that competitive anymore. You just strive to be comfortable, and then you're out
against
running.
myself.
Yeah, okay.
That's why competitiveness against myself is okay.
Yeah.
But now, like, you won't even catch me playing like pickup basketball because people take it so seriously.
They really do. All right. So the final team here is Mahomes, Stafford, Carr. At running back, we have Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Ray Davis, and CEH. Wide receiver, we have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Rashee Rice, Rashid Shaheed, Trey Tucker. And at tight end, we have Travis Kelce and Juwan Johnson. I feel really good about this team. I actually think that this team came together really well. How do you feel about it, Daigle?
I think it's good. Our only error, which wouldn't even look like an error if you screenshotted it, was Matthew Stafford not understanding or not knowing and looking at the bye week because we were mid-conversation. Other than that, though, I really do think it's fine. I think I would have allotted that one pick to running back just to tack on one more guy at the end, but totally fine.
We could have gotten what's his name, the Tampa number 2 or Tampa rookie
Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving, I think was available there. Which
Bucky Irving, Will Shipley, they're all around there. Yeah.
Yep. All right, we are going to enter one more draft. Daigle, are you still good to do another draft, or are you?
Yep. Nope,
right.
I'm good. Just
right,
looked.
We are going to.
Yeah, we're fine.
Sweet. All right. And I was just going to say, so I at one point was going to do a marathon. I was a Division III cross country runner in college at Tufts University. I was a cross country runner. And I, shortly after college, a few years after, was going to run a marathon, got up to my 20-mile Sunday run and just had been having knee issues. And I was actually at that point living in New York, ran to Central Park and got, I think, one lap down, 1.5 laps through Central Park. And then just my knee, it was just like, I cannot run anymore. And I had to walk back home 4 miles from Central Park when I was doing my long run. And that was the end of my attempting to be a marathoner.
No, that's well, see, that's where I say that's a lesson learned. As they told me, I dehydrated in my very first marathon try. It was really bad. I came in a poor time. I walked the last 6 miles, but as they taught me, sometimes you run the race, sometimes the race runs you. You just get back out there. You learn from your mistakes. So now I'm an overhydrator. I'm very cautious now, but I had to learn that lesson.
All right. Yeah. I say that was again. I do think there is a not less than 50% chance, but I'd say greater than 10% chance that I do still attempt to run a marathon at some point in my 40s. Now, I guess I'm in a new age tier. I'm 40, almost 41. So I'm the younger end of the new age tier, I think, for marathoners. So maybe now is the time that I should be jumping in. I've been running on the treadmill, and I run as much as 7 miles at a time sometimes. But
that's a lot for most people.
Yeah, I'm still in the trying to lose weight stage right now. I'm just too heavy to be running a marathon. So I'm trying to lose weight first, and then once I lose a little bit more weight, then maybe I'll try to be a little bit more competitive.
Okay, the draft didn't freeze. Bindle said it. I thought it froze too, but it's okay. Yeah, and honestly, that's fine. It's like Pete and I think we talked about this on that After Dark show, is that like the worst person you could be is the one that like tries to tell you to work out a certain way. It's like, dude, if someone's like just being active, that's okay, because we all have to do it what is enjoyable to us. And so like I did power lift like throughout college in my early 20s. Like that's what I was doing because it's all I knew. But then I found running during the pandemic, and now like, you know, I only want to touch a gym once a week, if that. I hate weights now, but it doesn't matter because I'm still being active. So like once you find something you actually want to get out there and do, that's all you're looking for. You're not trying to follow like the Twitter threads of bros with colorful emojis who are saying like, do this for every 15 minutes or whatever. You're not trying to have an optimal life. You're just trying to get out there.
Yeah, I think that is great advice. Just like work out the way that works for you. Don't listen to all the people who are like, this is the way to work out. This is, the best way. It's like, no, the best way is different for every person, I think.
Literally every person. Yes. Do not compare yourself. That is the greatest enemy you can have.
All right, so we are faced with the same decision as last time. Do we want to go Puka again? Should we mix it up, go AJ Brown? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, let's mix it up. Let's go AJ Brown. I mean, that's between him and Garrett Wilson. This is kind of what I've been doing all year anyway. So
yeah, I like that pick. I'm on my other screen now. I'm going to change to the ETR rankings, so we'll at least have we can talk about the ETR rankings as we're drafting.
Yeah, we can show everyone. I know we're definitely higher on, because like the most recent conversations I think we had were higher on Devonta Smith, DeAndre Swift, and Chris Godwin early on. Leone also made me push Josh Jacobs into tier 4. I didn't want to, but he made me do it.
Oh, sad.
It's Josh Jacobs' ADP is like palatable enough. He's going to be a guy in home leagues where you just literally don't touch him. But like right now, the market hasn't reacted as extreme as I thought. Like he's still in the 4th round. That's fine. Especially like with anchor RB builds. If you want to take that bet, that's okay. It's not one I'll be making, but nothing egregious.
So I'm not sure if that I uploaded, I think, and it said verifying 300 IDs, but then didn't show me the players like it sometimes does. So I'm trying to see if it took. Now Tyler Lockett, I think this probably means it took, right? Tyler Lockett, no, Tyler Lockett at 104. Would that be the ETR rank, or is that too low?
104. Let me look real quick. Lockett is at 89. So okay. No.
Did not take. All right, I'm going to have to keep trying.
And yeah, ADP is around 102, 104. So that's probably it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll make this next pick, and then I'll see if I can. All right. So by ADP, it would be Saquon Barkley, but we have Ayuk, Olave, Devontae, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins.
We also have AJ Brown. So although I'm not a Barkley guy, this is crazy ADP for Barkley, right? Like an AG running back with a rushing quarterback.
I know. I don't like Barkley here at all. But I do sometimes do it with AJ Brown.
Pick a receiver or Barkley. I don't care which one. Like this is like an exception for Barkley. I probably won't have any other Barkley. I don't even like the pick there. But again, we have AJ Brown and Barkley. Now we're kind of buying into probably having Hurts too.
Yeah, that was just a pick that neither of us really enjoyed doing. But wait, here, I'm gonna try this one more time. The CSV upload.
But I agree with CLN. Barkley should be like a fade for everyone in that range. That is crazy.
Yeah. All right. So I think I just was able to update with the ETR rank. So I'm going to try refreshing. Yeah, that was we just made a pick that neither of us wanted to make. I couldn't figure. Where do you have Olave relative to Deebo, Ayuk, etc.?
I believe in that same range that we talked about earlier, right behind the Drake London, Garrett Wilson tier. Let me double check that. So same grouping as like Marvin Harrison.
Okay.
I'm gonna double check that though real quick. Yeah, literally one spot behind Marvin Harrison.
Okay, so he would have been a decent pick there. Olave was one that I was thinking about doing instead of Saquon.
And honestly, Olave is probably better than Saquon Barkley. That's fine. As I always say in the live streams, do as we say, not as we do.
Yeah,
because
exactly right. Exactly
whenever
right.
you're talking and drafting, it can get a little convoluted at times.
It is, yeah, it is tougher than people realize when we're, especially when it's just like, you're trying to, oftentimes not trying to give away what you want to do before your pick comes up on the board. And then it's like, we have to have a conversation. We have 30 seconds to have this conversation. And to some extent, you kind of have to give that up sometimes. But yeah, it can be tough. I don't think my best drafts are typically the streamed ones. But whatever. Um,
30 seconds is usually tough too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you are drafting by yourself and you don't have to like talk it through, you're just like, just think it through. It's like, it's usually enough time. I think it's tough, but it's like enough time. Whereas then you just take away a little bit of that time by having the conversation. And also like half the time I'm like, by the time I realize I'm on the clock, it's like, oh shit, we have 20 seconds left. So yeah, it's a little bit tougher on stream. Meatwad, yeah, get ripped with these 10 steps. Common chuds just don't get. That's
Yep.
funny. That's exactly right.
That's it. That's what Twitter has become, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah, exactly right. Drink my, what was the vinegar, the randone thing, I forget what it's called.
Oh,
The
I
special
forgot what it
vinegar that you
was.
drink.
Yeah.
That was all the rage at one point.
And here, I guess we're going to see what comes back to us, but we probably are looking at continuing this Eagle stack, right?
Oh, Devonta goes, but we could get Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. We can still get Hurts and tack on Dallas Goedert if he fits later on.
Yeah.
Because Goddard's still a guy where I have 2 tight end builds. It's okay.
I'll say, I see now that ETR is probably responsible for Jalen Hurts. I feel like he's been rising more and more. So you have Jalen Hurts pretty well ahead of Josh Allen.
Yeah, and again, they're explained in there. We have them in the same tier as they should be in the same tier. But yes, they should be ranked alongside each other. If we had Bills build, which we don't, I'm totally fine with Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. But yes, Hurts over him.
Well, and these days, like you just don't until you take Josh Allen. When you take Josh Allen, he's like the start of the Bills build.
Yep.
Used to be you'd get Diggs and Allen, but now it's like, yeah, you just take him when it's like, all right, I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna stack this up later on.
I still like Dawson Knox too, and I know no one wants to target him in the last rounds, but when you have Josh Allen and you look at just those last groupings of tight ends, Dawson Knox at least has been a touchdown earner, and that's all I care about. Half PPR, like if you're not scoring touchdowns anyways, you're probably useless.
Yep, absolutely.
Or you can be arbitraged easily, so I don't mind that. Okay, but we have the Eagles offense. That's a good start.
Eagles offense, so I guess Dallas is the bring back. We could also throw on a Jake Ferguson later on as the bring back here. If we, again, I don't always do the week 17 bring back for all of my stacks, obviously. But that's one that fits in here pretty well. And I like, Ferguson anyway, so we could do that potentially. Or as you said, just build on to our stack further.
And we're not at the point yet, but whenever drafts start getting more populated, that's when I start pivoting and doing the like AJ Brown, Devonta Smith with Josh Allen, or like pivoting from the one pick to like literally the next guy who projects similarly, because that's a unique build that usually teams aren't on because they're so obsessed with just the stacking.
Yep. That is a good point. Mahomes goes here at 30. I think we got him at 55 in the last draft. So that just shows you the range for Mahomes, one draft to the next.
Did he go to the Kelsey drafter?
Yes. So he did. Yeah. He stacked them up. Yeah.
Again, Underdog usually that's the one that's most impacted by stacking partners. Like everyone just lets everyone slide if they don't have anyone to stack with.
So here I think we need another receiver probably, since we only have 1 through 3 rounds. We would go Tank Dell. He's the top of the ETR rankings.
Tank Dell's good with me.
Yeah.
Take your Texan receiver and just be done with it. Silva's high on Diggs. Nico Collins, like Debro mentioned earlier in the draft. Nico Collins has shown, like at least last year, he has a ceiling, so it's always good. I don't ignore players who already proved they have a week breaking ceiling. And then Tank Dell was earned targets at a higher rate than Nico Collins when they played together.
Yep. No, I think that is a good call. Yeah, I like just getting a piece of that offense. It should be a really good offense. So we'll make our bet on Dell in this draft. Kind of mix up who you're making the bet on draft to draft. But yeah, I think I'm probably going to end up with the most exposure to Dell, just where he falls in drafts, being the third of those 3 and not clearly the third best fantasy asset. Yeah, I like Dell where he's going. Um, Fresh guy, get tired thinking about walking 1 mile. That's funny. Nick says, I tried doing 100 sit ups a day, and that was impossible. I just walk 5 times a week and lost 15 pounds in the last 3 months. Hell yeah, Nick.
Congratulations, Notorious. That's great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Nick says, we love to see it. Different Nick.
But this is going to be a different one because we obviously had the Chiefs onslaught going on around this time. But now the door is wide open for a lot of different variations.
Yeah, it's a pretty different start than what we had last time, which I kind of love being able to do a completely different draft. Um, and we got the quarterback, the running back, two wide receiver start. I'm usually an elite tight end guy, but I also I'm trying to not do that every single draft. So seeing that Dalton Kincaid and Andrews are both off the board makes it a little easier to not force in the elite tight end build. Are you an elite tight end guy in general, Daigle?
Typically, yeah. I think elite tight end expands this year all the way down to like a tight end 5, whether you have Kincaid, Andrews, or McBride listed in that tier. But those are my guys. And then I guess you could argue Kyle Pitts too. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be a unique experiment in Atlanta since, as everyone knows, Zach Robinson is going to pretty much have the same playbook as McVay, just like Kevin O'Connell did. And McVay, Kevin O'Connell consistently lead the league in 11 personnel. Atlanta was literally dead last in 3 wide sets last year, passing from 3 wide sets. They're going to be top 5 this year. So how does Kyle Pitt fit into all that? I'm not sure. Also, there's been a lot of debates about whether Kyle Pitt is just a blocker or is even good at being a receiver in the NFL. I don't know, but literally he was top 2 in depth of target in every season under Arthur Smith. That's not a good component to score fantasy points. You have to still get the easy layups like Mark Andrews and
Right.
Travis Kelce do, where you use shallow over the middle of the field. So all we need, honestly, is Kyle Pitt's route tree to change. If he's used shallow and over the middle of the field, he'll be just fine, regardless of how they use him beyond that. So keep the deep shots, but just get him closer, and maybe it's an entirely different player.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many things. Could be a little bit healthier this year. He was clearly a little bit hobbled last year.
Yeah.
New offense, new quarterback. There's just so many things that I'm willing to make that bet again on Kyle Pitts. Of course, he's burned me a few times. I'm okay just being burned over and over. Speaking of, we could go Kyle Pitts here. We could go to one of these running backs. I don't know if you're a Jaden Reed guy, Xavier Worthy. Who do you like in this?
I don't mind betting, sprinkling around the Packers guys, because the target trees are so convoluted based on who's healthy and their offense. So to me, it's they're all going to be usable, and we just don't know which one will be more consistent. So I don't mind betting on Jaden Reed.
Okay, yeah, he's probably the one that I'm. Now, I probably do get more of him than Romeo Dobbs, but he's probably the one that I get the second least of the Packers guy, just because of where he's going. And to your point, the reason is because I'm I don't really know how it's going to shake out for the Packers receivers. So I just take the most of Dontavian Wicks, who goes last, and I think, is a decent bet to be a wide receiver 1 or 2 on that team, being drafted as the wide receiver 4. But, Romeo Dobbs is the one that I kind of skip over him a little bit.
That's the one where all of us drafting would take out Romeo Dobbs if we could, but the Packers don't take out Romeo Dobbs.
I know.
Plus, he's coming off a really good playoff, so it's not like he's going anywhere. Jaden Reed basically only played in 3 wide sets last year, but the fact he showed a ceiling in 3 wide sets to be more useful than all of them, that tells you have to draft him. And then Christian Watson, like D-Bro's mentioning in the chat, it just comes down to his health. The worrisome thing is that the Packers historically under Matt LaFleur don't ramp up guys. If you come back after an injury, they historically have just played you slow out the gates until you were at full strength. And that goes back to even Christian Watson last year when he was returning from injury. So I just don't. Christian Watson needs to be at full health all year, and we just don't know. But when he is at full health, he was awesome. It was really peaking in that Thanksgiving Lions game indoors. He was poised to explode, and then he re-injured himself in the first quarter. But we just need him at full strength.
He seems to be gaining a little bit of steam. It used to be Christian Watson was kind of the pick that nobody really wanted. He was kind of the only wide receiver in a wide range of running backs. And it's kind of I guess I'll throw him on if I need another wide receiver. And then I think he's sort of a lot of us kind of thought through it a little bit more. And everybody at the same time, it feels came to the same conclusion that he's actually a pretty good bet again this year. And his ADP immediately jumps. Should we just go Kyle Pitts here? It falls to us at 64, or would you rather go to one of these running backs, receivers.
I'm okay with Kyle Pitts. I think the pick, as Creoth mentions, of Saquon Barkley really made wide receiver and other positions much more important than running back. So
Yeah.
I go Kyle Pitts or Godwin. Either's fine with me.
Let's go Pitts. Because we went Godwin last time. We're going a little bit of a different builder. I mean, that's not a great reason to not go Godwin again on sample size of 2 drafts, but I like Pitts, and he's fallen a little bit to us. Kind of a fun pick there. Yeah, I was just catching up on chat, getting to the point of when we took Saquon Barkley there, and it's immediately Barkley's a fade for me. I'll have 0, no, oof, collective groans from everybody, including those who drafted him. A sea of orange, and everybody was mad at that Saquon Barkley pick. So
I don't blame. I mean, again, that's the opinion everyone should have. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He is a very fadeable player at a top 20 ADP, but we took him. It's okay.
Yeah,
I've made dumber picks.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that I don't love clicking it, but also I don't want to have 0, and I think it makes sense when you're making the Eagles team bet, like whatever. Yeah,
I also like to use these kind of teams as experiments, because I've never had Barkley in that range, so it's like, okay, how do I get to now see what a draft looks like when I have that anchor RB at that position and get to go elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly right. D-Bro, Christian Watson, wide receiver 1. Yeah. We could potentially get Christian Watson. We could do a Jordan Love team now if we wanted to. Of course, we already have Jalen Hurts, so that'd be 2 pretty early quarterbacks if we do it. I do kind of like Jordan Love. Like, I've been drafting a good amount of Jordan Love and just mixing up which Packers receivers I have with him, because I'm like, I think he's going to be good, and somebody's going to hit from the Packers. Just not really clear who. Or we could just take Christian Watson as a secondary correlation potentially. We'll see if he's available with our next pick. Evan Ingram, I've been taking a lot of Ingram.
The Jordan Love, the Packers offense, it's going to be really interesting to see like what happens, because they really had like a tale of 2 seasons as well. Like, Jordan Love was arguably benchable in the first half of the year. He was terrible. And then it was not only their schedule lighting up, there's a lot of things mixed in. Christian Watson was getting healthier, his own development. Under pressure, Jordan Love got so much better. They changed their scheme and started dragging receivers closer so he could get rid of the ball quicker as well. A lot of things like went well the second half of the season, and he went on a Joe Flacco-like tear with the Ravens. Like, Flacco that could not be stopped in the Super Bowl run. Jordan Love was awesome. Yeah. But like, also, like, their offense, he was so awesome, like unsustainably awesome. Their offense was also like immaculate. Like, he inside the 10-yard line, he threw 18 touchdowns and 0 picks. There's a lot of things that just could not happen again. And then you ask, okay, how far does the Packers offense move backwards if it comes back to life? And I don't know the answer to that question. So I'm very interested to see like what the Packers do from here, because like the Jets, they're very volatile. Like, they could go in either direction, but I do think their floor is still significantly high.
I'm glad to hear that you think that there is volatility there in the Packers. As a Vikings fan, I was loving it when Jordan Love was not great early in the year. And then it's like, of course he comes on. It's like the fucking Packers just every year, every decade, they're just going to have Hall of Fame quarterbacks. It's, the way it feels like it's going. But you're right. Like, there's still a lot of volatility there.
You can't teach thriving in chaos. And that was the one thing he had for him. Like, that dude, Jordan Love, embraced chaos. He was so good whenever the chips were down. And a lot of quarterbacks just don't have that. They literally crater.
All right. I starred Christian Watson here because we had been talking about him. He would fit this build. Good with just doing that. I was going to suggest either Deontay Johnson or Christian Watson. Christian Watson, a good pick?
Yes. Who else were you going to?
Oh, Deontay Johnson went.
He's gone though. I would still take Christian Watson over Deontay Johnson too, though.
Okay.
Again, just betting on ceiling. I said it's very volatile. It could go either direction, but I still believe the Packers offense has a high floor. So definitely don't mind that. Plus, Jaden Reed was still the beneficiary whenever Watson was out. So we're kind of hedging with like a handcuff wide receiver.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. Deontay Johnson, I actually noticed that he is higher in the ETR ranks than I thought he was. I thought that he had been a little bit lower. I know I sometimes mix in the ETR and leg up rankings. It's kind of the 2 ranking sets that I use. And I thought that he was pretty low in both of them, but he's actually right around ADP in at least the current ETR rankings. Maybe he wasn't always. but makes me feel a little bit better because I've been trying. I moved him up quite a bit where I'm trying to get to some Deontay Johnson. I talked to my friend Scott Barrett on a stream a few nights ago, and he was super into Deontay Johnson in this range. So I'm
I
trying
wouldn't
to
say
get.
I'm super, but the competition isn't there for a QB wizard like Dave Canales. Like I hope Baker Mayfield zelled Canales 90% of his contract because he's responsible for a majority of the extension. But for Deontay Johnson, like there's no competition. Xavier Leggett, although I hope he succeeds in the NFL, he's just a terrible prospect. Like if it wasn't for
Yeah.
the first round capital, the Panthers trading up, I don't even know what he has going for him. He's just like Jonathan Mingo. That's what's so funny about it. Well, go ahead.
All right. So we do have the two Packers. We could take a second quarterback here in Jordan Love if you think we can afford to do two quarterbacks this early. Otherwise, we could go Lockett here or one of these running backs. How do you feel about this range?
Yeah, I would say I think we're still good without a running back. I'd say Jordan Love or Tyler Lockett. I don't care whichever. If you think we can get away with two quarterbacks here and we just literally never click on quarterback for the rest of draft, that's okay.
Yeah, we're definitely not going another quarterback here. Yeah, this is earlier than I like to get my second quarterback usually. Don't love doing the double elite quarterback thing, but also I think I like doing a lot of different types of builds in BBM. I'm not convinced that what has worked in past years is going to work every year. So I think that generally people would say don't be taking two quarterbacks this early. At the same time, a lot of my better teams last year, the teams that made the playoffs that I felt the best about were those double elite quarterback teams. Just like, oh my God, like I have two great offenses that we're building around here, and they could ping pong in the playoffs. So actually, I don't hate it as much as I think the general sharper best ball players. A lot of sharp best ball players would probably tell us you don't want to take two quarterbacks this early. I'm okay with doing it sometimes. Like it's not going to be a huge priority. I'm not trying to get two quarterbacks this early, but I think it's okay to do sometimes. Are you
It's
okay also?
it's two elite stacks too. That's what's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's okay. I don't I always round out with two or three stacks, but I never have two elite stacks. So that's what's interesting to me. Plus, I'm such a weather bro. Like I am a sucker for week 17 indoor games. Like that's all you got to tell me. Is this game indoors? There's only 4 games like last year who were indoors in week 17. Packers Vikings is one of them. So
Yep.
I'll gladly take it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I feel good about this team. I feel good about this start. I think that we can
This will
land
get
this
more
plane, as
comments
they
if we
say.
screenshot it. The first one we'd get made fun of.
Yeah.
People don't like structured well teams. They want sexy.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think this one will
Ro-
play.
Rhodium also asked in the chat, how do we feel about Noah Fant? He's in the grouping of last round tight ends you add on, but if there were a year where Noah Fant breaks out without Drew Lock, like this would be it because everyone else forgets he's only 26. It's like Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is actually 4 months younger than Ramondre Stevenson, but no one knows just because Antonio Gibson is
You're blowing my mind right now. Both
it
both of
seems
those
like he's played.
stats.
It seems like he's been in the league for 20 years,
Yeah.
but he's so young. But Noah Fant is only 26 this year. And finally, no competition. Whereas like Colby Parkinson, Will Disley, those guys were always like really good at their singular roles that Noah Fant could not usurp them on. But like Fant finally has the run out to be like an athletic tight end getting every snap. So, if there was ever a year to bet on Noah Fant, I think it's finally it, but who knows?
I mean, I didn't think he was old, but I probably would have guessed that Noah Fant was 28, 29, 20, 26, a little bit younger than I thought
Because he
he
came
was.
into the league from Missouri so young.
Yeah. And then Antonio. I don't know what age I would have thought Antonio. I do. I historically, not recently, but I did collect football cards for a while, which sort of helps a little bit in the like get an idea of how long players have been in the league at the very least.
Yeah.
But yeah. How old is
What's
Gibson?
funny is that during the pandemic, that's we all got into our dumb things to make extra money, and
Yeah.
I started buying rookie football cards.
Nice.
I have a couple, like 1 of 10. Well, let's make this pick real quick.
Yeah. Devin Singletary, Curtis Samuel, Dallas Goddard, Gus Edwards. I'd say those are our.
We have the elite tight end, so
Could still
Dallas
go Shaheed
Goddard.
here.
Oh, yeah. I would go. Do you want to go the receiver or do you want to go Goddard here?
Let's just go Goddard because I think
Okay.
the receivers that are likely to fall to us, because I guess I don't have a strong opinion about which of these receivers to take. I think that we have several decent options. So I think Goddard just like I know that I want Goddard here to add on to our Philadelphia stack. I don't know which of those receivers. I'm not a huge Curtis Samuel guy in this range. and he was the top of the list there. So I feel like, and you moved up Gabe Davis. I feel like significantly in the ETR. I shouldn't say you. The ETR team together has, I think, moved Gabe Davis up pretty significantly from where he was the last time I used the ETR.
I still like Gabe Davis too. Brian Thomas is the better player overall, but how long will it take to get integrated? We don't know. And then also Gabe Davis, as upset as everyone gets at him, his ceiling games have been predictable in that, if you're playing zone defense, then that's usually when Gabe Davis strives because he literally can't separate against man coverage. And now at least we get, there's a full season. I understand that, but we think he's going to start in 2 wide sets based on the money they gave him. Not only that, he's still a deep threat like they use Calvin Ridley, and he gets 2 games now against Gus Bradley and the Colts. And Gus Bradley, like literally going back to the Raiders, has run a league high rate of cover 2 like for his entire career. The dude doesn't do anything but play zone coverage. So I like Gabe Davis for a lot of reasons. Yeah.
All right. So we have currently 2 quarterbacks, 1 running back, 4 receivers, 2 tight ends. So a bit of a unique build here. I think we're done at both tight end and quarterback.
Yes.
So we're probably just jamming running backs, wide receivers the rest of the way. We could go with Gabe Davis. We could go with Gus Edwards, Mike Williams. I also don't hate these. Part of the reason we pushed wide receivers, getting Shaheed or Jacoby Myers here, I would feel perfectly good about.
Both,
do you have a preference among this group of running backs?
Do we think Gabe Davis or Rashid Shaheed fall to the next round?
Probably.
Who has the greater chance of falling?
Definitely Gabe Davis.
Let's go Shaheed and hope Davis comes back.
Yeah. It's obviously because we're doing a stream draft, it makes it less likely he falls back to us, but ADP of 134. So he would be, our next pick would still be ahead of Gabe Davis's ADP.
I'm completely fine with that. And still, although we have elite positions wrapped up with 2 guys, we still have 5 wide receivers already. I like this team. I like this team a lot.
I like it. We only have 1 running back, but it is, of course, Saquon Barkley, who we all agree is a great early round pick. Going to absolutely anchor,
especially at pick 16. Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll have to get some running backs here pretty soon. But yeah, our wide receiver room is actually coming together pretty well, despite skipping second round. And
this is the range of running backs though that I still live in. I love this territory because again, everyone moving to more committees, and we have question marks about the dead zone, that I think is going as early as tier 2, 3 or whatever. Because even if I like HA and Kyron Williams, I understand you could easily poke holes in their game and you should just be waiting anyway. So around this time to attack ambiguous backfields with the athletic receiving backs they have, I love this range, and ending with 6 running backs, 6, 7.
Yeah, you get your Blake Corum if you want to bet against Kyron Williams. You go your Jalen Wright if you want to bet against Devin Achane. There's so many interesting running backs.
I think
so long
Pat Corain said best so far I've heard throughout the offseason is that it doesn't look good on paper right now, but it's because the ambiguous backfields you're targeting, the backups are all taking, they don't project. Backup running backs don't project, right? They project for 4 touches, but we know that's not the case come the most important weeks 14 through 17. So it's just fine. You're not worrying about projections. You're worrying about just hopefully falling into usable scores.
Yep. Yeah, that is spot on. Yeah, so Gabe Davis still there. I wanted to say, so Michael was saying Dobbs should have been our pick for the Goddard pick. I fall into that sometimes where when I do the Jordan Love thing, I just end up taking every Packers receiver because it feels like they sort of fall in line with ADP, which I think is the wrong approach to just get all 4 of those guys. I do it anyway just because it's I'm a sucker for we don't know who's going to hit, but at least 2 of these guys are probably going to be good. So I end up doing it. So I'm glad we didn't do it that time, force our way to Dobbs. Wicks also goes, as I said, we talked about, we're both in on Wicks. He used to be you could get him here every time at pick 129. He's definitely everybody has talked up Wicks enough that now he's sometimes
I feel bad for Bo Melton because he was better than Wicks whenever they played. But no one ever drafts Bo Melton. It's as a UDF, I believe he was either 7th round or UDFA. It's amazing that Bo Melton just kind of came on that one week and then put together 3 scoring weeks. It's this dude just came out of nowhere and was awesome.
So Gabe Davis does fall if we want to go that route.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although, well, we can bet on Dallas later. I would say Brandon Cooks.
He is a bring back. Yeah, that's true.
We have Philly.
We could also do one of these running backs for Dallas.
Okay, let's wait it out. Let's go Gabe Davis and let's see what happens here.
Yeah, let's just queue up these 3 Dallas guys. And then, as you said, we got Corum here. We got a great group of running backs coming up.
No, we're just fine at running back. Like I do not hate this tier. Rico Dowdle was trending in the wrong direction. He was a very easily fadeable player, understanding that he's someone who's like never handled 250 touches. I believe Hayden Winks had it. Like Rico Dowdle's never handled 200. Let me look this up real quick. Yeah, the most touches he's had in the NFL through 3 seasons is 106. But like if you go all the way back to high school, Hayden Winks at Underdog said he's never handled 200 touches, I believe, his entire career. He's like the guy who is such a player who doesn't belong in this bucket. So you just like avoid, you ignore.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks goes, so we're not going to get that bet. Zeke goes, which I didn't really want to take Zeke anyway.
After talking shit on Dowdle, we're about to take him.
Yeah, that's the
way it goes.
He's the one still. I mean, we could skip over. We don't need to do a Dallas backer. We don't need a run back.
I love Jalen Tolbert. I've been
also
drafting.
do a late round Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly fine taking Dowdle. Make that bet. Jerome Ford, Zach Charbonnet. Do you have a preference here?
I still love Jerome Ford. I love hedging against Nick Chubb, who again I don't even think will be serviceable this year. I love Jerome Ford.
All right. Should we just do that and try and get Tolbert later?
Let's do it
as a bring back.
We'll get some Tolbert because we're going to add more receivers anyways.
Yeah, probably not too many. I mean, probably one more receiver, maybe 2 more. I feel like this is going to be probably a 6 running back team. I would think 6 or 7 running back team.
Dink also wanted me or promoted because we did the deep sleepers and I started the list, and that's the way it works. Like when we aggregate articles, it's like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Who else do we have here? And then everyone will throw out names or correct someone. Dink has been drafting Deuce Vaughn, I believe. He may not even want me to say that, honestly. But Dink has been drafting Deuce Vaughn, but I don't do it on Underdog with 18 rounds. Like I think Deuce Vaughn's a better drafters or
Agreed.
FFPC 20 round kind of guy.
DraftKings, yeah.
Yeah, DraftKings kind of guy,
yeah.
18 rounds is still a little too thin for Deuce Vaughn, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a tough click. You could do it. I can see that, but that's interesting. I didn't know Dink is in on Deuce Vaughn.
And Michael W. mentions, yes, Packer wide receivers are going to be lotto balls each week, but I don't mind chasing lotto balls because, like, it's fine as long as the lotto gives you $1 million. Like, as long as they have a ceiling, that's okay. If it was a lotto for $10, we're not going to do that. But Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, literally Wicks, Bo Melton, they all showed they have literally a top 12 scoring week in their range of outcomes. So we have to take a chance on those lotto balls.
Yeah, I think that they are. Yeah, like you said, they're good bets, even being lotto balls. But you know, it's also you like those lotto balls when you can get them cheaper, which is why I'm making most of my bets on Dontavian Wicks. It is funny. Romeo Dobbs would be the next in that list in terms of price being the cheapest. He's the second cheapest, and he's the one that I'm like, kind of skipping over, which probably skipping him over more than I should. Mike says he didn't realize that we had 2 Packers receivers already, and I liked it. We have 2 Packers. I think just having 2 of those lotto balls is probably the right amount. 2 to 3 of those. I probably doing all 4 is incorrect, but I think 2 to 3 feels pretty good to me when I get Jordan Love on my team.
And plus, there is a little bit of a ambiguous target tree since Tucker Kraft. We don't know when he'll be back. Maybe training camp, but he even said he left practice and then he was out. Apparently then through training camp. And he's like, wait, what happened? And then he told everyone his pec literally ripped off the bone. His pec was just floating there in space. So
wow.
I have no idea the recovery timeline or when he comes back from that. And Tucker Kraft was really good in that last couple months without Musgrave.
Yeah, no, that's so does that make you like Musgrave better? I mean, we're probably not taking him on this team because we have 2 already.
It makes me more I don't know about him better, but it makes me more confident when I take him for sure.
All right, so I think we go running back here. We could go with the young man Antonio Gibson. I like Khalil Herbert later too.
I love Antonio Gibson. Love Antonio Gibson.
All right, if you love Antonio Gibson, he is the one that I think makes the most sense here. Let's just
5.3 million guaranteed. Nothing to scoff at on the open market. Basically framed like a 2-year deal for him, even though it was listed as 3 years. But he has a 300 touch season under his belt. Ramondre Stevenson doesn't. Antonio Gibson the last 3 years, even when Ron Rivera was just trying to push him out, he still has averaged a double-digit target share. And like Ramondre Stevenson, this is not his regime. Bill Belichick was the one that drafted, was the one that gave him touches. We don't know anything about this backfield. So if you can tell me, like, I finally get the bet on Antonio Gibson, like a big receiving back who has been used as a workhorse, like this is the first time I've got to draft him since his rookie year. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I like the Antonio Gibson, mid late round pick also feels pretty good. I think that there is potential for him even without an injury to Ramondre Stevenson. Would we be that shocked if Antonio Gibson wins
No,
that backfield, like becomes the
not at
guy
all.
who is the lead back there? So yeah, I like him as a mid round pick there. Of
Him,
course,
him, Ty Chandler, and Kendry Miller for sure. Like, are three of my absolute favorites. I'm going to be over the field on Ty Chandler, and Antonio Gibson, 100%.
big dusty receiver tried to get us to take Adam Thielen in this range, aka Mike Leone. Loves those dusty receivers. Not falling for it though. We're not falling for the Adam Thielen thing.
Especially because he did as we expected, and he did have he had a lot of ceiling weeks in the first half, but then just kind of slowly faded away as it got colder. The winter months catch up to the older bodies out there,
Yeah.
and man, it was so bad that last 40% of the year.
Yeah, he fell off a bit. I'm a fan of Khalil Herbert actually in these late rounds. We would be taking him 22 picks out of ADP if we take him here, but I like him just from I think he's probably the running back 2 in Chicago as is, and he's a pretty good running back 2, and also he might get traded to a better situation. So I'm just like, I like the bet right now on Khalil Herbert. With that said, we don't need to. He is the next running back up in the ETR ranks. We have kind of a big dead zone here for running backs if that's where we want to go. So we could just take wide receiver here also.
Yeah,
see,
we're apparently the chat is also in the Ty Chandler hive. That feels good. I love Ty Chandler, but Khalil Herbert's fine. Who else do we have around this range?
So these are our top running backs here. Is Khalil Herbert, and then it's Kamani Vidal, Bucky Irving, Jaleel McLaughlin, Dante Foreman, J.K. Dobbins.
All these guys, yeah.
And then wide receiver it would be, we could go Malachi Corley here, Wan'Dale Robinson.
I'll go Khalil Herbert. I'll take a shot on the trade.
Yeah, I think that it makes sense for this team also. He's just our fourth running back. So taking him ahead of ADP, but we're at the point now where it's like ADP doesn't really matter at this point. It's just, everybody's kind of just get who makes sense for your team, and Khalil Herbert. I think
we'll see who comes back. I think we're getting a couple more shots. Maybe although we got a ADP discount on him, as Creoth mentions, maybe the Gabe Davis pick should have been running back, but that's okay too. We may have waited one round too long to start picking them apart.
Yeah, I do think that that's kind of, but who was available there? So it was
those guys at the back end,
Zeke.
Blake Corum, Zeke. Yeah.
I think I like Jerome Ford just as much as Blake Corum and better than Zeke personally. So I don't feel like if Chase Brown had been available there, I feel like that would have been a better pick than Gabe Davis, but I didn't feel that strongly that we needed any of those other running backs over.
I still like some of the running backs coming up too.
Yeah, that's the thing. We still have plenty of running backs left that I think have some juice. You can at least make an argument for them. So I'm okay with it.
Who are the next on the list?
So in terms of, this is ETR's rankings, Vidal, Bucky Irving, Jaleel McLaughlin, who's a guy that I've been in on. Sounds like Levitan is not that in on Jaleel McLaughlin and made some.
Levitan's wrong. I'll tell him in the Slack too.
Nice.
Jaleel McLaughlin is fucking good at football. He's like incredible. He came out of nowhere. He was Sean Payton's pet project as a UDFA, but that dude could play. Like he basically outplayed Samaje Perine down the stretch for the receiving role. And as Javonte Williams struggled, everyone's assuming that Peyton will lean on Javonte because he's healthy in year 2. I really don't know if that's the case. We still get a receiving back in McLaughlin. So I love McLaughlin.
Okay, yes, and I don't want to misrepresent Levitan's takes either, but I saw on Twitter today he was posting about the Denver backfield and basically cited something that kind of made it sound like Jaleel McLaughlin is fighting for that third down role, not really in competition for the main first, second down role, and still not even guaranteed to have the third down role. Whereas my take on, I've been drafting a ton of Jaleel McLaughlin because my take is he's arguably the best running back there. He just had so much juice last year. So I've been thinking that there's upside that he could be the first down back as well for Denver. He just might be the guy in Denver. And then I saw somebody asked him, so what do you think of Jaleel? And Levitan's response was something like, sometimes I'll throw him on for a late round stack with Bo Nix, if I need a back stack at the end, which is, my valuation of Julio McLaughlin has been more like he's probably the third down back, but has upside to be the early down back also, is kind of
Agree.
how
And
I've.
also that's not Audric Estimi's role. Estime only had a 5.5% target share in college. Like he's not going to take McLaughlin's role. So I
Right.
completely agree. I think McLaughlin's closer to coming for Javante than he is than anyone coming for Jalil.
Okay. See, that has been my thinking also, but Levitan scared me a little bit with the
Oh.
with that talk. All right.
This is
So
why
do we,
this is why we get into arguments in the ETR Slack.
That's great. That's great. All right. So we have 2-4-6-2. If we want running back, man, it's a lot of wide receivers here in the ETR ranks. We go Deontay Foreman. We already made the Jerome Ford bet though. J.K. Dobbins, I don't hate as like he might be healthier than we thought.
I think I hate J.K. Dobbins.
Would you rather go Foreman or a receiver here?
I would go DeMarcus Robinson. I like
All right,
DeMarcus Robinson.
Yeah, that's.
How did Luke
I knew that you liked
McCaffrey get
Demarcus
up?
Robinson. So
How did Luke McCaffrey get up here?
in terms of like ranking ADP, like you don't like the pick.
I think that's is that our ranking at ETR?
That is, that's the ETR.
I may need to
been.
slack Leone, see what the deal is with that. Yeah.
I mean, you've got him rank 177, ADP 178. So like right there with the ADP.
Okay. So we're in line. That's fine. I mean, McCaffrey didn't even get the capital. He's awesome. Like he's really good at football, but I just don't know how he carves out a role. Like it's pretty stacked there already.
You think so in Washington? Like he's, I mean, behind Terry, who is set there in your opinion?
Well, Terry, and as poor as Dotson is still pretty set in his role, being like in two wide sets. We also know Cliff is going to try to play Zach Ertz while Zach Ertz is healthy. Zero chance they put Zach Ertz on the bench. That's Cliff's boy.
All right, 2 more running backs come off the board immediately after we take DeMarcus Robinson. Yeah, we this probably needs to be just running backs the rest of the way for us.
That's fine.
Right
there, it would have been reaching for running backs.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like this is the ETR ranks, and you can see all of the picks right now are wide receivers.
It's like all our favorite late stacks. Yeah.
Yeah. We could still make the bet on P. Ryan, who is likely to be cut, I think. So let's talk through some of these running backs. So you hate Dobbins, who I early on, people asked me about him. I was like, yeah, I think I'm completely out on Dobbins, but he's just convinced me. He keeps saying that he's healthy, he feels great, and I'm like, well, what if J.K. Dobbins is J.K. Dobbins in a run first Chargers offense? But yeah, definitely some holes there.
Yeah, he could shove it in my face, but the last time he said he was healthy, I had to watch him get outrun by a defensive tackle while he was limping down the field. So I don't know. I typically don't believe players when they say they're healthy.
Yeah. We could double click, do Jerome Ford, Deontay Foreman, double down on our bet against Nick Chubb if we wanted to. That would be the next pick in the ETR rankings. I haven't taken like any Tank Bigsby. There's been some hype that he could be more involved this year. I know that you were in on CEH a bit. Anybody?
Well, I like CEH with Mahomes.
Okay.
Not necessarily differing. We can probably wait on it. I still love Alexander Madison. Again, like I talked about earlier, we get a player who's drafted in the 6th round last year, and again, a day 3 back, an unproven day 3 back is his only competition. So I still love Alexander Madison.
I'm going to star him up. We could take him here. We could wait on him probably. But is there anybody here that you like feel strongly about ahead of?
I wouldn't say strongly, but Tank Bigsby would probably be the next one in line with ADP.
All right, let's
just
go
Bigsby. Because I don't want to overlap Ford and Deontay Foreman.
You don't like doing the
I don't know if is there a study? Do we know if that's like correlated?
I don't see. I think we have too small of a sample size for there to really be a good study. I mean, I know that there are ways to do it without having a bigger sample size. Like you can just look at, different weeks, past seasons, how it would have worked out potentially somehow. But yeah, I'm not aware of any great study on handcuffing your running back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't hate it, but I prefer to just have one or the other, betting on one or the other.
Yeah, and that has been my thinking historically. I think what's his name? The best ball guy at ETR. I'm blanking on his name now. Justin Herzig is the biggest proponent I know of handcuffing your running back. At least maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's made that argument before for handcuffing your running backs, and I've sort of come around to it this year as like maybe it's not the worst idea in the world. Like you do have so many picks, you don't need to get them all right. So I've come around to it in some of my builds. I'm less opposed to it than I was in previous years.
We we know that they want to limit Travis Etienne or have someone share. They took Tank Bigsby to do that last year, but not only did Dearness Johnson outplay Tank Bigsby, like if there have been like people clip up every single one of Tank Bigsby touches. It literally was like he was trying to tank. It's like he put props on his unders against himself. Like you could not have a worse run out than every single time he touched the ball. But I think they'll go back to him at least. Whether he holds on to that role, I have no idea. But it's just like kind of betting on a player who was being drafted in the 12th or 13th round last year. It's now just betting him at a different ADP.
Would you call him the Devion Smith of the NFL? Is that a fair comparison?
Well, Devion Smith just really doesn't fumble. He's just inefficient, horribly inefficient. Yeah. Tank Bigsby, like any chance he got, even the penalties he draw, it was, if you watch the low light reels, it was bad last year. Really bad.
That was disappointing last year. And I bought in a bit last year. Definitely had some Tank Bigsby throughout my portfolio. That was disappointing because there was so much hype in the offseason for Tank Bigsby. Yeah, it did not work out at all. Do you agree that we just do running backs the rest of the way? Oh, Alexander Madison goes, of course.
Yes, and by the way, we may get a chance here. We may do Deontay Foreman anyways.
True. I mean, we do have the
all
chance.
Right.
Do you want to
there you go.
Just do it?
You and Herzig convinced me in between picks, so let's just do it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll do some Deontay Foreman. I think we're probably good everywhere else. So at quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love. Skip to wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Rashid Shaheed, Gabe Davis, Demarcus Robinson, and at tight end, we have Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert. I feel like we could be done at all. I mean, we only have one pick left, but I think that running back is still probably our weakest. We have Saquon Barkley, Jerome Ford, Antonio Gibson, Khalil Herbert, Tank Bigsby, Deontay Foreman. I think it makes sense to take a running back, but do you see it any differently?
No, I think running back, yeah, we kind of have to do that.
I don't hate taking like a Kenneth Gainwell, throw him onto our Philadelphia stack.
The stack Shipley. Actually helps for sure. I don't mind him. Kriyoth mentioned Keaton Mitchell in the chat, and I don't know when Keaton Mitchell's going to come back, but in the last round, a guy, I keep repeating the same term, break the game, but the last round, a guy who literally breaks the game of football and could be back for the second half of the season, always exciting at a position of need. Evan Hole, I also like taking shots on the backup Colts running back as a pure direct backup standpoint for sure.
I feel like this team can afford to have a guy who we expect to miss the first half of the year because we have so little. I mean, I guess Ford could be a first half of the year guy, but I feel like this is a team that is more likely to be better in the second half of the year. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I guess we do have a lot of veterans. It's not like we have a bunch of rookies. We just have a bunch of players that are expected to be RB2s, in which case they'll probably be better in the second half or have potential to come along in the second half. But maybe that's not entirely true of this team.
We got Tank Dell.
We got double Tank on this team, Dell and Bigsby.
Okay. We don't have a second Houston, but yeah, I mean, at least Keaton Mitchell does play the Texans in week 17. We know that.
We could do that.
Indoor game too.
All right, let's do it. Let's do Keaton Mitchell. Call it a day. 2-7-7-2 is our build here. Yeah, I think that works. I think this plays. Not the strongest running back room, but we went with the hero RB in Saquon Barkley. We made the bet there. Not going to feel good since we're not huge Barkley believers, but at the end of the day, I think we did it. We got there with volume on top of our Saquon pick.
And we did it in a Eagles onslaught too. We have 4 Eagles, so we did it in a way to diversify also from just strictly having anchor Barkley.
Yeah. I don't think we got any Vikings on this team, so we didn't have any bring back for the Packers in week 17. But again, don't need to, with every single one of your picks, be doing a bring back. So not the end of the world there. I kind of like this team. It's an unconventional team, and it's not a team where we built the way that I usually build, or it sounds like you usually build. But I feel like we ended up with a team that I think could play and could be a fun team for the playoffs. I'll read it off one more time. Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love at quarterback, so very elite at quarterback. At running back, we have Saquon Barkley as our anchor, and then we didn't take another running back until pick 136, Jerome Ford. Then we have Antonio Gibson, Khalil Herbert, Tank Bigsby, Deontay Foreman, Keaton Mitchell. At wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Rashid Shaheed, Gabe Davis, Demarcus Robinson. And at tight end, we have Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert. So pretty unconventional, but I also think there's kind of some meat on that bone, I think. What do you think? Do you like this team?
I like this team better than the first one. At least, again, screenshot equity is better because it's more fun. I'm never opposed to chasing the late round backs, the receiving upside. That's kind of what we did in this spot. Just hoping to fall into ceiling later in the year. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, I think it actually worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that team. So that'll do it. We got 2 drafts out of the way. I know we had some people. CLN was drafting with us. Maybe we'll look at CLN's team real quickly since I think was drafting both teams with us. CLN ends up with Tua and Trevor Lawrence, as Isaiah Pacheco, Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, Rico Dowdle, and Jaleel McLaughlin at running back. So love that running back room. At wide receiver, he has Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, Roman Wilson, Malachi Corley, Jalen McMillan, and then at tight end, Evan Ingram, Isaiah Likely, Jonnu Smith.
All stacks in order. That's a good team. That's a solid team.
Looks like a really, really strong team there. All right, Daigle, really appreciate you hanging out with me for these 2 drafts. Hopefully one of these sort of unconventional teams ends up making it to the finals, making some money for us. But thanks for coming on, Daigle. Where can people find you and your work?
Established a Run. We talked about it throughout the show, and not only just the tiers that are my writing. If you want to check that out, if you are looking for some more big picture views and like the sea of player takes that we have right now in May, everywhere else you look, but then also just the cliche articles you probably are curious about too, whether it be players we're all drafting from round 16 on, also late round stacks. If you get to round 13 and don't have stacks yet, I ranked week 17 games, talked about the context with them. I tiered them all off for everyone. So all those articles are over there right now with the Established the Run sub, which I know you have, Neil.
I do have that sub, and you also post some of that stuff on Twitter. You can find John on Twitter at not J Daigle. You post some of your work on Twitter as well, so make sure you're.
I'm much more active. I'll be more active here in the coming months. I'm old enough to where I like to step away pre and post draft just a little bit while I'm doing prospect stuff, and then I really get back into it because from that point forward, it's literally an everyday grind.
Yeah, but
we all need a refresh at some point.
Absolutely right. This is the time to get that refresh before we're all just in full NFL season all the time. And of course, you and I are in peak UFL season right now, which thankfully doesn't take up as much time as NFL does.
And you, Scott Barrett, John Proctor, the great Jake Tribby, y'all are all doing amazing work over there, by the way.
Thank you. And you as well, obviously. It's fun. There's not a lot of content out there for the UFL, but I actually think it's like elite content, like across the board, all the UFL,
quite
DFS
elite.
content.
Yeah. If you could like name actual splits in the UFL, you were doing great work. Yes.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Daigle, for hanging out here. Thank you to everybody else for hanging out with us. Of course, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. You can join the Discord, still fairly a couple weeks old Discord, Flannelverse Discord. The link is in the description of the video. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us, and we will catch you next time.